Start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GBNews, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Jubes, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It is Saturday night and this is the Saturday 5. I'm Adam Cherry along with Will Kingston, Renee Honderkamp, Luca Watson and Kai Wilshaw. Tonight on the show...
The UK needs its own Doge.
Don't be a white heterosexual man.
Brace for impact in autumn for more tax rises.
Poland shows how to deal with migration.
Just Stop Oil was the most effective protest of our age.
It's 6 p.m. and this is the Saturday 5. Sorry about that. Welcome to the Saturday 5. Now, don't adjust your television sets because I am not Alex Armstrong. I am the far younger and indeed far cheaper Adam Cherry, keeping the seat warm for the next 3 hours. Fear not, Alex has not resigned after about, what, 2 shows in the job? He's just hosting Ben Leo tonight while Ben takes some well-deserved time off. So basically, if you're struggling to keep up with this, it's very simple. The former host of Saturday Morning Live is hosting the Saturday 5, whilst the regular host of the Saturday 5, who started about 2 weeks ago, is hosting Ben Leo tonight. It's very easy. It's a bit like a cabinet reshuffle, except none of us has ever had to accept free VIP tickets to Sabrina Carpenter for our own safety. Although, to be fair, I haven't actually checked that with Alex, so who knows. Anyway, the good news is we crack open the booze in the last hour of this show, so grab a beer, get comfortable. Spring has sprung. Clocks are moving forward, aren't they? The sunshine is on its way, and as of next week, all our bills are about to shoot through the roof while the country teeters on economic ruin. So we might as well enjoy it while it lasts. Now, I'm sure you know how this works by now. Each host outlines their argument about a chosen topic, and we all pile in and basically try to cancel ourselves and each other. We leave career-ending booby traps for our esteemed colleagues to step in and blow up live on camera. And of course, we want to know what your views are as well, so get them in. Send your views, post your comments by visiting gbnews.com/your say. And don't forget to ask your questions. Get those in for Ask the 5. No topics are off limits. And apparently this is a new segment since before the last time I hosted this. Vote for your favourite 5.
Oh.
Yeah. Right. Go to gbnews.com/poll to vote for your favourite 5. We'll bring you live updates throughout the show. God, that's going to be terrifying. The vote will open every week at 6 p.m. It closes at 8:30, and we bring you the results shortly after that. But before we start tearing each other apart, it's your Saturday Night News with Sophia Wensler.
Adam, thank you. Good evening. It's just gone 6 o'clock. These are your headlines. More than 1,600 people have been killed in Myanmar and thousands more injured following a 7.7 magnitude earthquake which struck yesterday, causing destruction as far away as Thailand. The death toll continues to rise, with thousands still missing and hundreds believed to be trapped under the rubble of collapsed buildings. Meanwhile, the King has sent a message of condolence, saying he and Queen Camilla are dreadfully shocked and saddened and send their deepest sympathies. Overnight, international leaders, including US President Donald Trump and China's President Xi, also sent their condolences and promised aid. Southeast Asian bloc leaders have also met and say it will ensure a timely and effective humanitarian response, with the first batch of aid being sent on Monday. In other news, Denmark's foreign minister has hit back at JD Vance's comments that Copenhagen had not done enough for Greenland. He said, "We are open to criticism, but let me be completely honest, we do not appreciate the tone in which it's being delivered." Mr. Vance is the first US vice president to visit Greenland in an overnight trip which caused controversy as President Donald Trump repeated his call for the US to take over the island. Speaking overnight, the vice president was explicit in his criticism of Denmark, accusing them of underinvesting in Greenland, as he warned of Russia and China's encroachment. Now, back in the UK, the former Archbishop of Canterbury has admitted he got it wrong when dealing with the child abuse allegations coming across his desk when he was in post. Justin Welby resigned in November after a review found he failed to properly follow up on reports about serial abuser John Smythe, who was heavily involved with the Church of England. Dr. Welby told the BBC he was overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the child abuse problem in the church. Now, the parents of a 9-year-old girl were arrested by police after they complained about their daughter's primary school in a WhatsApp group. They said they were questioned on suspicion of harassment, malicious communications, and causing a nuisance on school property. After a 5-week investigation, though, police concluded there should be no further action. And the open-top bus parade carrying the Newcastle United players has emerged from St James's Park, as more than 300,000 fans are expected to have descended on the city today as they mark their Carabao Cup victory. Speaking from the bus, TV presenters and Newcastle United fans Anton Deck described the atmosphere as amazing. The 2-1 win over Liverpool at Wembley secured the club's first domestic trophy in 70 years. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to the Saturday 5.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
It is Saturday night and you're with the Saturday 5. I'm Adam Cherry and I can promise that we are in for a very lively show tonight. So shall we just crack on with the first debate? I think I'm going to go first, host privilege, why not? So, the spring statement has come and gone and obviously the Chancellor tried putting a positive gloss on everything. But I don't think her gamble has worked. This year, growth will barely scrape 1%. In fact, we aren't even expected to reach 2% growth at any point in this Parliament. That's supposed to be the government's central mission. So where does that leave us? Well, the Institute for Fiscal Studies warns that unless the economic outlook improves dramatically, tax hikes are coming in the autumn budget. Rachel Reeves has just £9.9 billion. It sounds like a lot, but it's really not. £9.9 billion of wiggle room. That is tiny by government standards. And if growth slows further, she'll have no choice but to raise taxes again. Now, does anyone really need reminding that taxes are already at a post-war high? Because if you do, just look at your council tax from next month. That's going to remind you. Now, far from providing stability, this spring statement has only triggered months of speculation over what comes next. Labour MPs don't want benefit cuts. The market doesn't want more borrowing. Voters obviously don't want higher taxes. Something has to give. And believe me, by October, I think we are in for real pain. Anyone disagree?
No, I don't, Adam. The thing that's so immensely frustrating about this government is that they seem to think that if you just keep saying the word growth over and over again, it will magically happen. But in fact, everything they do is anti-growth. We have known for over 100 years that you create growth by lowering taxes, by reducing the size of the state, and by lessening regulation. And every single thing they do is the opposite of those three things. So I don't understand. If they're just going to say we're going to be a high tax redistribution government, I'd have more respect for that. But why are they saying one thing and then doing another?
I mean, the other thing is that none of these governments, and I do just put them all in the same basket, are looking back at what's going on and thinking, well, hang on a minute, this system that we're using and globally we're using, where we just tax and tax and tax, is, as Will says, not creating growth. But at the same time, services are getting worse and worse and worse. So they're not looking at the system and thinking, hang on, this system is broken. What do we do to change the narrative?
Yeah, I was going to say, on change, I mean, that was their slogan, coming into change, and what we see in government is that they're scared to change anything. As you said, they're tinkering around 9 billion, 5 billion here and there, but the big structural issues, and that's going to mean looking at stuff like pensions, looking at stuff like welfare more generally, these things they're just too scared to touch because they know that ultimately their base rely on these things.
Kai, I guess you're going to have a slightly different view. What do you reckon?
Yeah, no, I agree with the panel because Rachel Reeves has really hemmed herself in a number of ways. Number one, you know, the manifesto pledges not to raise income tax, not to raise VAT, has meant that actually the levers that Rachel Reeves has in the upcoming autumn budget are very few. But then also the fiscal rules that she's created for herself and that she is, you know, keen to stick to means that she has to do this crazy sort of juggling act, as we saw in the last week, when she has to find £14 billion extra either savings or winnings to add to the government coffers, just to get her fiscal headroom back. So actually, but then 20 minutes later, after she did her spring statement, Trump put a bomb underneath that all by saying that there's going to be 25% tariffs. No, I'm not saying it's Trump's fault. What I'm saying is that it's short-sighted by Rachel Reeves to tinker around the edges, when actually something like Donald Trump making one announcement can blow it all up again.
What should she do? Tell me.
I think she needs to ditch the fiscal headroom rules that she's created for herself.
We're already at 100% debt to GDP.
But we're in a crazy, unprecedented period, I think, at the minute, where... no, I think we are, where geopolitics is completely thrown out of the pram. We don't know exactly how we're going to be achieving growth, but also there's lots of long-term measures that this government is taking, but it's going to take a while. It's going to take
You cut welfare in half. You encourage business, small business. That's how you...
But we are. But the Labour government is cutting welfare. And also, Will, to your point, earlier you said, oh, there's three things that the Labour government could do and they're not doing any of them. Actually, cutting regulations, they are doing. Cutting the size of the state, they are doing. The only thing that you wanted the Labour government to do that they're not doing is cutting taxes.
Well, that's a biggie, but they're cutting regulation in the property market because Conservative voters in the Tory shires don't vote for them anyway. I think that's a good thing. I agree with it. They've also created millions of new quangos since they started in government.
27.
27, thank you. A rhetorical flourish, but, you know, 27 million, same thing. The fact of the matter is that this government doesn't understand how to grow an economy because next to none of them have worked in the private sector. You should be embarrassed that you support a government which basically has a group in cabinet that has been full-time political staffs their whole life and suddenly thinks that they know how to run an economy. They obviously don't, and now the chickens are coming home to roost.
And we're going to feel, all of us in Britain are going to feel the effects next week, awful April, right? We've got national insurance on businesses, that's going up. We've got energy bills, water bills, you name it. It is going to hit people in their wallets massively in the next week or so.
Is Awful April now a thing? I didn't know that we've actually now got a term for it.
Oh, if it isn't it now, it's right.
Yeah,
Awful
I like
April.
that.
But I don't see what any other party could do to differently face up to the fact that global circumstances mean that they've had to act.
I don't know how many times I've said this. Lower tax, lower regulation, reduce the size of the state. It is so
and they're doing two of those three things.
I'm going to let Kai just finish off and then
two of
we'll move
those
on.
three things, Will. They're
really not.
They are, but they are.
$5 billion off a welfare bill that's going to reach $100 billion by 2040.
Guys,
but the way to
talk about
cut
this all
that
day.
would be-
We can talk about this all day, but we've got to move on because we're running out of time. It is now your final. We'll move on now. Actually, it's your final week to see how to win our massive spring giveaway and grab a designer handbag, designer watches, and a whopping 17,777 quid in tax-free cash. Make sure you don't miss your chance to make it all yours. Here are all the details you're going to need.
It's the final week to see how you could spruce up your spring, as we have an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash to be won. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you the latest Mulberry handbag, and not one, but two sought-after designer watches, so you can style it out this spring. Make sure you don't miss out, as lines close on the 4th of April. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Lovely stuff. Now, still to come tonight, Poland announces a temporary suspension on asylum applications on the Belarusian border, but we still can't stop the boats. But next, Will tells us what he thinks of Nigel Farage's calls for a Doge-style anti-waste department in the UK. Is that a step in the right direction, or is it just further Americanisation of British politics? Well, you're with the Saturday 5 live on GB News.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Jubes, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation.
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Please do get in touch at gbnews.com/your say. Get your questions in for Ask the 5. And by the way, don't forget to vote for your favourite 5 at gbnews.com/poll. Now, there we go. Here's scores at the doors. Now, to be fair to Luca, you didn't get much of a word in edgeways last time.
I can only go up from here. So
things can only get better. Renee, as usual, I'm told you're doing quite well there. And Will and I on 20%. Will's on 25. Kai on 5. Well done, Kai.
A good performance for me.
As I said, don't be a man.
Kai's mum and dad are in, and Renee's pops are working hard.
I need to make some phone calls. Right, the vote will close at 8:30 p.m, and obviously we'll keep checking up on it throughout the show. Now, it's time for our next debate. Who's up next?
I'll have a crack.
Go for it, Will.
In a very good speech last night, Nigel Farage took aim at the UK administrative state. He suggested that the country needs its equivalent of the American DOGE, Department of Governmental Efficiency, stripping out waste in Whitehall, as well as forcing those lazy civil servants to get back into the office. Good. I actually don't think anyone, even loony lefties like Kai, could potentially argue that the government has not become incredibly bloated over the last 50 years and that something needs to be done. I think the bigger question here is, can reform do it? Because it will require a few things which are not easy in politics. It will require them to communicate that there will be winners and losers as a result of this. There will be people that will lose their jobs as a result of this. It will require them to reframe the language of austerity to fiscal responsibility. I've never understood why the right goes along with the word austerity in Europe and the UK, when really it is about being fiscally responsible. And it will require political courage. Now, many people are suggesting that Nigel Farage is moving closer to the Uni Party than being a genuine right-wing alternative. So my question to the group is, will reform be able to attack the administrative state in the UK?
Will reform be able to attack the administrative state? Luca, let's go to you first. What do you reckon?
I think they need to do the work. I think that the way Farage is presenting it is just you rock up on day one, tell loads of people they're fired, and you go from there. But the truth is, a lot of the reason these people have these jobs is because of legislation, which means you're required to have people, for example, diversity managers in the NHS. That's a result of legislation.
It's not like the Equality Act, isn't it, right?
Yeah, the Equality Act. It's not like the NHS just does it for fun.
So they scrapped the Equality Act on day one.
That's the thing.
Well, that's the thing. So they need to come in with a proper plan and actually know exactly what legislation to target and how they're going to implement this.
Yeah. Look, it's funny. I have so many politicians say, oh, we can't do that because it's the law. It's like, you guys are responsible for changing the law.
They're the legislators,
don't like the law, change the law. It's extraordinary.
Particularly in the last two parliaments, you might not have known if you were, not paying attention closely, but both had massive majorities.
Exactly right.
You can use it.
This is the thing. I can't take anything that Nigel Farage and the Reform Party say seriously.
You will when he's Prime Minister.
Everything that they're able to take pot shots from the sidelines at this stage when they have 4 MPs, they can't even fit in the back of a cab. And they're able to do that, but actually, when it comes to governing, and we've seen this pattern with Nigel Farage's previous iterations, the UKIP, the Brexit Party, and so on, it gets to a point where actually, when it comes down to it, when it's time for serious leadership, when it's time for governing, he's not up to it. And the people that he has around him aren't up to it. And I think, actually, he will come up against a hard dose of reality. Well, if he tries to reform the British state, which so many people have tried to do in the past and failed, he is going to have a pretty harsh wake-up.
So, in principle, do you think it's a bad idea to try and reform the state, slash spending, cut while? So you actually agree with the principle that Will is arguing for?
Yeah,
So, we need a UK Doge, but he's not the right person to do it?
I agree with that. And actually, if you look at what Keir Starmer and the current government have been talking about, they're talking about the same sort of stuff, about using technology to streamline the state, about cutting out waste.
You've spoken.
Look, you may not believe it, you may not like it.
This is a panel. We're all allowed to speak, OK?
Go for it. Here we go.
Look. Wes Streeton has stood up and said, I'm reforming the NHS, OK? What they've done is pump in another 30 billion. There's no reform going on in the NHS. There's a lot of massaging of figures, let me tell you. People being offered appointments that are then cancelled, but they're off that list, and so on and so forth. A GP contract that is not going to change anything at all. We're not training enough doctors. This is a joke. They're not going to streamline anything. And I think what they're demonstrating is what you've just said, that they can talk big when they're sniping from the sidelines and they get in power and go...
OK, I'm going to let you respond to that in a sec, but to be fair to the Labour government, I'm sure Wes Streeton would say we're abolishing NHS England. That's probably a massive change.
But that's not going to happen either, because all of those...
Oh, you don't think it will happen at all?
So it will happen, the name will go, and all of those people will be redirected into other jobs with the same salaries and the same pensions. No money will be saved, no money will be pumped down.
Can I let you guys jump in?
Can I go on Doge as well? I think one of the most important things about Doge and one of the reasons behind it was not just a cost-cutting measure. There are other ways you can cut costs. It's also an ideological project. The idea was that in the US, there were, they call it the deep state there. There were people there who were running against the agenda of the president. And so Doge was in part to make sure that the whole government would be in line with the president's agenda. And I think that is what Farage will really struggle to do. And that's where I think he needs to be concentrating his energy, looking at how do you get everyone on board so if he does become Prime Minister, he's not going to face blockers within the state.
Well, I'm going to go back to you on that. What do you make of what Lucas just said there? Is he going to face sort of institutional pressure and blocks that will prevent him from doing what he was voted in to do, hypothetically?
Yeah, I think it's a very, very good point. And I think what we may end up seeing, unfortunately, is the equivalent of Trump 2016 and then Trump 2024. In that I think you may see, if reform gets in 2029, real struggle to understand the mechanics of government because reform haven't been there before. A real struggle to push against those institutional factors that are in their bones, that sort of woke liberal left elite, and maybe it will take a second term once they've understood it better to see the change that we need to see.
But would voters at the ballot box in 29 say, you know what, even if I like some of the stuff that's on the menu here, they're not going to be able to implement it, so what's the point? And so therefore they turned off it before they've even voted.
I think this Labour government are going to terrify people so much that it's going to take an awful lot for them to turn to Labour again. So then it's Reform or Tories, and I think the Tories are going to take a long time to forgive.
Right, should we move on? And who wants to go? Who wants to go next? Renee, you're up for it. Let's go.
OK, if you're a white, heterosexual man or even just a woman, you may well be scared of your government. And if you are scared of your government, I completely get it. This week, we've seen nurses who are being forced to change, with men in their changing rooms, lose their jobs if they speak. We've seen male patients who demand to be called miss and then her vile abuse at the nurse when she forgets. Who's punished? The nurse. We learnt that many of the 1.5 million homes that Labour are triumphantly going to build all over the countryside will actually go to migrants, pushing down British-born, long-waiting people on the waiting list to never get their home. And the cherry on the cake? The faceless quango that is called the Sentencing Council has refused point blank to listen to the government and change its new sentencing protocol, where people who are trans, female, ethnic minorities are going to get softer sentences after pre-sentencing reports. Apparently outraged, the government, however, seems powerless to stop this. And whilst they sit there scratching their head about what to do over this, we, the voters, can see that voting is now totally meaningless. This country is being run by faceless quangos, by ideological lobbyists and by a left-leaning judiciary, and we have no power over those unelected people. The result of this rot that is at the core of government, is that we now have two-tier policing, two-tier justice, two-tier housing, two-tier sex rules, and We, men, British men and women, are the victims.
Kai, I want to go straight to you on that one. Have we got a two-tier justice system? What's your take on this?
Well, clearly there's some sort of issue with the way that we deliver justice in this country, right? Clearly, the guidelines that the Sentencing Council has come up with are ridiculous. That's plain for anybody to see. But the idea that the government is powerless to stop this is ridiculous, Renee.
Okay.
Because we know already that Keir Starmer has said, following this decision by the Sentencing Council, all options are on the table.
That's not saying he's going to stop it.
Let me finish. We also know that they're very happy to axe massive quangos like NHS England if it's politically expedient to do so.
They've appointed 27 others.
I will predict something now. I really think that the outcome of this, and we'll see in the next few weeks, is the Sentencing Council is either really cut down to size or abolished completely.
Good.
Because this government agrees with the same sentiment that you're expressing, that there shouldn't be two-tier justice.
What about
you can see it in the comments that Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood have made.
Right, so that's one bit. We've seen people go to prison for 2 years for Facebook posts, but people who punch their constituents don't. We've seen nurses lose their jobs over men with penises in for a procedure on that, get punished because they forgot to call them miss. What about all that two-tier justice?
And Renee, can I add, for the last 5 years, we've had to endure this Labor government, or previously Labor opposition, have identity politics in its bones, kneeling down for Black Lives Matter, saying that men can be women, all this sort of stuff. And now, because some public opinion is turning against it, suddenly you think that that is not where they stand today. It is in their institutional DNA.
I'm going to go to Kai and then we'll get Luke in on this.
These are different things.
No.
So respecting equality, respecting different characteristics is different to using those characteristics in judgments for penal sentences. I mean, those are two separate things. You can support the one while also focusing on the latter.
There is no evidence they've been able to separate those two things.
If you say so. I mean...
Done.
You're going to bring Luke in. What do you reckon?
Well, I think this is a real test of Keir Starmer, and if he does, as you say, you think he will, abolish the Sentencing Council, then I'm sure you'll be celebrating, and it will show that the mood has shifted. I mean, you talked about identity politics and so on. I think it's fair to say that that era is behind us, and even Labour now are pushing against this sort of stuff. Keir Starmer has been very adamant that this is absolutely not something he supports. And so this is a test. Is he just rhetoric, or has he actually changed?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting point from Luke there, actually. Despite, we're having this argument today on this problem, but the mood music on identity politics more broadly, I think we'd agree it has changed a little bit, right? Well,
no, it's changed perhaps in the everyday person walking down the street. In terms of the Labor base, it certainly hasn't changed. They are still firmly behind it. I don't think Keir Starmer has the guts to be able to stand up to his core base. That is why I think this sort of stuff will endure into the later reaches of this term of government.
I mean, we have had Labour this week say that of those 1.5 million homes, as much as 80% of them might go to new migrants into this country, Kai. That's not standing up to his base.
I just don't... Will, on what basis can you talk on behalf of the Labour base? When have you ever gone out and knocked on doors and actually talked to Labour voters? Because I can tell you for one, they're much more sensible than you're making them out to be.
I live in London, mate. I endure the mainstream media, which is predominantly left-wing. I work in a corporate job, which is predominantly left-leaning. The difference between you and me is that if you're right-wing, you are subjected to a centre-left liberal elite bias every single day. You, on the other hand, and maybe you as a slight exception because you are fortunate enough to listen to people like Renee and I each week, but generally, people who are the woke left don't hear right-wing, sensible opinions. That's the difference between the woke and everyday normal people.
Renee, one more word on this?
I just think we also need Wes Streeting, when he stands up and says he's going to get rid of all of this trans stuff in the NHS, to actually put his money where his mouth is, because thus far, not one thing has changed, and men are still being asked if they're pregnant.
And do you know what? I'll add one more brief little bit of a nugget of info to this. So, Wes Streeting said there's a lot of, what would you call it, sort of identity politics. There's a lot of identity politics sort of guff in the NHS, right? So the diversity manager roles that are clogging up the system, sort of pen pushers. He said he wants to end that, but honestly, if you even go on, I'll do it during the break, you go on the NHS website, you'll still find 5 or 6 more diversity manager. Yeah. So, Kai, I'll let you have one more sort of 20, 30-second pushback on this and then we'll move on. It doesn't. It feels like it's rhetoric. It feels like it's rhetoric over action, right?
I think there's a role for diversity and inclusion managers. I really do. But it's obviously true that there's been a bloat in the public sector generally, also in that sector, and it's been pushed by a certain ideology. Now, we can find a middle ground here. We don't have to pitch people against each other. There's a way for D&I to work, and also including, as we talked about last week, class. Because in the UK, class is a massive determinant of your life success. So there's a way of doing it, but this isn't the way, and I'm glad that Wes is trying to...
We're going to leave it there, I'm afraid. We have to leave it there. I know, again, there's another one we can talk about all day long. But still to come tonight, we've got a good one next. You're going to sink your teeth into this one. Just Stop Oil announced they will just stop. Kai will give us his verdict on their legacy. The next, Poland announces a temporary suspension on asylum applications on the Belarusian border. Is the small, landlocked EU country setting an example to us here in Britain? Luca will tell you all about that in just a moment. You're with the Saturday 5 live on GB News.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
After a very wet March, the final couple of days of the month look like seeing some sunshine for Spain and Portugal. But we are going to see some showers over Greece and Turkey. 1 or 2 showers possible for Madeira and the Canaries on Sunday. There's that sunshine over Spain and Portugal, but a northerly breeze will bring a cool feel to the Balearics across Corsica and Sardinia. Plenty of showers for Greece and Turkey on Sunday. They should be fading, though, by Monday, and into Tuesday we'll see some sunshine and temperatures will be rising in Barcelona.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
I do think that there is extremities in how this has been approached with, you can't eat kebabs anymore. The Climate Change Committee isn't talking about banning meat. It's talking about reducing meat, perhaps having some incentives for plant-based diets. It's talking about doing small changes, not phasing out everything, doing small changes to move to a net zero future, a more sustainable future.
How can me not having a large dollar combat, I don't know, China opening 1 coal-fired power station a week? Come on, this is pointless.
Well, there is other things that have been advised beyond just, reducing our meat consumption. There's things around the tax around flying and aviation, producing less fossil fuel imports and switching to more renewable power, upgrading the grid. There's a lot of other advisories collectively that moves us towards a net zero future. There is a few, of course, we can go down the route of, they can't eat the kebab anymore, but there's far more other things at play than just the kebab meat.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump, that man again, is just laughing at all this. Drill, baby, drill. You're not telling me that his cabinet are going to chow down on some quinoa. This is a red meat country leading the way, and if we had half a brain about us, we'd be drilling ourselves.
I come from an energy industry background. I work for a data intelligence company, Mapstand, as well. And what we are seeing is that what's happening in America is actually quite short-term thinking. It's not long-term thinking. Whereas in places in China, you're seeing a lot of innovation and green innovation because there is a huge economic opportunity.
Yeah, because they're selling it all to the West and polluting their atmosphere. We're offshoring our carbon footprint, and they're selling the solar panels back to us because we're the mugs.
We're also able to be the producers and also change our own energy so that we can also compete.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Okay, welcome back to the Saturday 5. Please do get in contact at gbnews.com/you'll say. Get your questions in for Ask the 5. Also, don't forget to vote for your favourite 5 at gbnews.com/poll. And I think we can see an update on where we are. Scores at the doors. All right, so I'm on 13%, Renee 37%, Will 20%, Kai, I'm afraid you're on 2%. Luke is shooting up, 28%. See, there we go. As soon as he started talking, it all changed. So we've got a lot of work to do, haven't we, lads? I've got to try and claw it back.
The irony is when Kai starts talking, it goes the other way. So.
Okay, all right. Now, talking of Luca, it's time for our debate, and you're up next. Let's go for it.
Yes, well, I'm going to be talking about Poland, who have recently decided to suspend the right of migrants who cross in from the Belarusian border to claim asylum. Now, Poland has an issue for a few years with migrants trying to break in through the Belarusian border, and much of it has been pushed by Russia and other adversaries. And so what did Poland do? Did they let the problem mount and mount? Did they give them hotels and all sorts of luxuries? No, they decided to take some action and shut it down. Now, the Prime Minister, Donald Tusk, you may remember him from the Brexit days, has faced all sorts of backlash from activist groups and NGOs like Human Rights Watch. But did he let this deter him? Did he scrap all his plans as soon as he faced a bit of criticism? No. He just went ahead and made sure that he put his country's interests first. Now, Poland isn't the first sensible, sophisticated European social democracy to take action on migration. Last year, for example, France kicked out an Islamist hate preacher. In just 12 hours after his arrest, he was back in Tunisia because it can be done. Don't let those who say that the ECHR or the EU mean that you can't have sensible policies. Clearly, we can. The only reason that Britain at the moment has such absurd policies and can't even deport people who've been convicted of serious crimes is because of our own political class and their unwillingness to take our security seriously.
Interesting. Well, let's go with you first. What do you make of that? Because often in this debate we hear that it's either undesirable if you're on sort of a far left position on this to deport anybody, or if you do, that the ECHR is the reason we can't do it. That's the sort of the right kind of reformy argument. But Poland seems to throw that all into question, right?
Yeah, it does. I think what this demonstrates is the illegal immigration problem is a question of political will, not political skill. If you have a government that is determined to stop this, it is actually one of the relatively easier policy problems to be able to solve. Like, I put out a tweet this week basically saying if we had boat turnbacks in the English Channel, the illegal immigration problem in the UK would stop in about a month, maybe less. And I had people coming back and saying, well, what if the French get upset? Or what about international maritime law, as if that's a thing? It's like there are all these excuses generally around dodgy international law concepts, and international law is a nonsense, and we all know that. Really, if you have a government that wants to stop this problem, they can stop this problem.
Renee, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think what I find even more interesting about this is that you would not expect this Prime Minister to be doing this because he came from the whole I Love Europe camp.
Tusk,
Tusk. And when he got in there, I thought, oh, Lord, that's going to be hell on earth for Poland. But it isn't, and that's actually strength of character. And what we are missing in our politics right now is a true leader with strength of character.
But interesting, you mentioned Tusk, and I think what we're seeing now over the last few years is that with immigration, the relationship between Britain and the EU has flipped, and that actually it's the EU who are often acting in a way which is much more forward on combating illegal migration, whether it's Poland, whether it's Italy, whether it's France. And it's Britain, and we are the ones falling behind.
The island.
That is interesting, isn't it? Because also the return hubs idea, which the UK are now fond of, which is sort of like a Rwanda light, is the way I see it. Kai clearly disagrees. But that came from European countries.
Well,
that's why...
Following Italy's example. Exactly.
Precisely right. Kai, you sort of side over there. You've been quiet so far. Let's hear it. Come on. Here we go.
I mean, Poland has a really quite particular set of circumstances, right? Because the Belarusian border has been the site of a hybrid war, just like the Finnish border with Russia, where Russia has been sending people, tens of thousands of migrants, on purpose to cross into the country. Now, of course, they've taken action. They're almost in a state of war, a state of emergency. That is quite different to the situation that we find ourselves in. However, actually, Keir Starmer and the current Labour government are looking at the ECHR rules, and actually is our interpretation of those rules wrong or different to other countries? They are looking at that. So all of these solutions that you've been talking about are things that the Labour Party is looking at.
Yeah, but they're looking and they're not doing anything.
Yeah, well,
they had 14 years in opposition to look at things. Now they're in government. It's time for action, not to look at things.
Yeah. I would argue that things have moved on quite significantly.
In 6 months?
Yes, absolutely.
On small boats crossing? What's changed in 6 months on small boats crossing?
Not necessarily on small boats.
So why are they looking at it now? Why did they not look at it before?
Well, of course they should have, but they were also in the process of actually being an opposition party. You can't.
Well, that's when you should come up with policy when you're in opposition.
You can't be so presumptuous as to say that we're going to plan ahead without any of the civil service backing, by the way.
So
to enact all those policies.
Right, I'm going to let Renee jump in.
Do all that in opposition without any.
Kai, we've got right now record numbers of boat arrivals, whether you think they're the biggest problem, and I would argue that they're possibly not the biggest problem. We've got record numbers. What are Labour going to say when they get to the end of the year and that reaches 70,000, which it may well? Still looking at it?
No, if that happens, it will be a shame on the plans that the Labour Party's put together. But I do honestly think that their approach is the right adult way forward.
Smash the gangs.
No, it's a whole suite of policy measures, working with European countries, strengthening border security, creating a deterrent that is not Rwanda that costs hundreds of millions.
It is not a deterrent
but
if you can stay here whilst your claim is processed. That's the difference. Rwanda didn't work. It was a complete disaster. But at least it was a deterrent.
And it would never
would. People on the right saying Rwanda didn't work. Like Rwanda was the right answer. Offshore processing is the way you solve
this problem. Yes, in principle, Will, but that's different to in practice, isn't it?
But we didn't get to practice it because they cancelled it the day they got in.
Well, and also, it took the Tories 100 years to get it off the ground in the first place.
I want to say on the record, Rwanda was the right answer, and anyone on the right who's saying, we need to disown
is the right answer.
Yeah, and being stuck in an offshore processing centre in Rwanda is a pretty good deterrent. Pretty good deterrent. I think more on the right need to actually say we need to revisit offshore processing. If it's Rwanda, great. If somewhere else, fine. But that is an integral part of the solution.
I'm going to hold it there because we have to move on. I'm sorry, but still to come tonight.
Same diets as white women, we lose less weight and we lose it slower.
Wow, those trigger tantrums are coming. But next, Just Stop Oil announced they will just stop, if you can believe it. Kai seems to think that they were a force to be reckoned with. Is he right, or are they just annoying, privileged brats? Well, I couldn't possibly say. You're with the Saturday 5 live on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. It generally starts to become drier across the whole of the UK over the next 24 hours as high pressure starts to build in from the Atlantic. Low pressure has been in charge today, particularly across the north and the west with outbreaks of rain and strong winds, but this ridge of high pressure starts to build in. Still going to be pretty windy across the north and the west through Sunday, but it does turn drier. This weather front is weakening though as it pushes southeastward, so thicker cloud and patchy light rain and drizzle across southern counties into the early hours. Generally clear spells elsewhere overnight, but still blustery showers across northern Scotland, and temperatures overall 7 to 9 Celsius, so not a chilly start to Sunday morning. Early rain across the far southeast should start to disappear, but there will be further blustery showers across northern Scotland first thing tomorrow morning. One or two of these on the heavy side at times, but in between some sunny spells. Best of the sunshine across Scotland will be across central and southern parts. Also Northern Ireland, a bright start here, plenty of sunny spells. Similar for northern England as well, though cloud amounts vary. There will be plenty of sunny spells across the rest of England and Wales, and temperatures around 10 or 11 Celsius to start the morning, but still pretty breezy, particularly across northern and eastern parts of England and Scotland. It remains this way through the day, so we could see some large waves down the east coast at times through Sunday afternoon as the winds remain brisk here, but elsewhere plenty of sunshine, winds falling much lighter and feeling fairly pleasant out there. Temperatures reaching around 15 or 16 Celsius, just chilly along some eastern coasts where we've got that breeze continuing. On Monday, a chilly start, patchy frost and some fog in places, and then most places dry and bright, plenty of sunny spells, though weak weather fronts could give some cloud and some patchy light rain across parts of Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland through the day, and winds for all will be light, and high pressure remains in charge through much of next week, keeping it dry and temperatures above average. See you again soon.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Renee just said, can't we just skip Kai's bit? So I dropped you in it there.
No, I'm actually really looking forward to this.
I totally disagree. It's going to be one of the best bits of the show. Please get in contact at gbnews.com/you'll say. Get your questions in for Ask the Five later on. Thank you for your messages so far. Also, here are the poll results for Scores on the Doors. Here we go. So it looks like, Renee, you're still top, but Luca's
Renee, watch out. Yeah.
Silver medalist there. But
just a baby.
It won't take long. Right, so the vote closes at 8:30, so we've got a way to go yet, but let's keep an eye on Renee versus Luca there at the top. Now, time for our next debate. Who's going up next?
That'll be me.
Brace yourself, lock in, here we go.
Last but not least. Just Stop Oil was perhaps the most effective protest movement of our age. And I'll tell you why. Now, in February 2022, Just Stop Oil started up with the express purpose of ending new fossil fuel licenses. And it was intended also to be a campaign that proves the effectiveness of disruptive tactics in bringing about necessary change. Now, they've now been disbanded because, in their words, the government has adopted the policies that they were pushing for. Now, who could forget the crazy things that we've seen in the last few years? Disrupting football matches, walking onto the Silverstone F1 race, gluing themselves to Van Goghs, Constables, Da Vinci's, throwing tomato soup also at Van Goghs, throwing orange paint on the gardens in the Chelsea Flower Show. Now, instinctively, I agree, I hate this kind of look at me activism. But in this case, and as much as I disliked their methods, if they were looking to prove the effectiveness of disruptive protest, then I think they've probably succeeded in that. Now, a study by the Social Change Lab showed that 7 out of 10 academics say that disruptive protest is very important to the success of a movement. So is it not time for us to grudgingly admit that despite their piousness and their high-horsedness, they may have been onto something?
Kai, have you met Ed Miliband? I mean, I think you're giving these guys far too much credit. Imagine in the absence of Just Stop Oil, Ed Miliband would be, what, opening another, 100 coal plants across the UK? I don't think so.
No, and you know what? I'm not this kind of activist. I'm not the kind of person who ties themselves up to fences.
Or glue yourself to the road, or stop ambulances, or throw paint on Van Gogh.
But I actually do think, and when you look at the history of social change movements, there's the fringe people, there's the people who will glue themselves to things, throw themselves in front of horses, for instance.
Right.
And then there's actually the sensible people who implement policy changes and suggest something reasonable that the public can get on board with.
You can't
actually, there's a
fringe
space.
people.
But I think there's a space for all of those types of activism.
You have to admit that if the Tories hadn't been so woefully rubbish for 14 years and given Labour this win, because they didn't win it, people were just anti-Tory, this change would now not be happening. So regardless of what Just Stop Oil were doing in the background, you know, Phoebe, they're all called Phoebe and Arabella, have you noticed? And they're very white, all of them. It's not very diverse, this protest form. But anyway, if the government hadn't changed at that point, we wouldn't be pouring cement down some of our most important assets that we ever... And secondly, this kind of change is the most destructive change that this country is ever going to see.
I think, yes, Red Ed Miliband is a problem here, but let's not pretend the Tories also weren't fully up with this agenda. I mean, it's Theresa May who made net zero legally binding. Yeah, but it's essentially a bipartisan push for net zero, no matter the cost, no matter how badly it hurts our economy.
Rolled it back a little bit,
I think we're missing the point. The way Kai framed it is that this is a protest movement that's trying to influence government. The government was going to take this course no matter what. This is meant to be a protest movement that should be changing the hearts and the minds of the people. And if there's one group that annoyed the everyday people more than anyone else in the last 10 years, it was Just Stop Oil. They have turned everyday people off the environment.
I mean, that's
the problem.
Right. So I would guess that the support that the Reform Party now has for their abolish net zero crusade is largely fueled by the fact that the public, portions of it, and certainly those voting for reform, have seen these people glue themselves to the roads, block ambulances, and throw tomato soup over priceless pieces of art. It's probably worked against their agenda.
No, I think actually the great British public don't care about gimmicks like that. Like, yes, it'll make the news, but actually, if there is a backlash towards net zero, it's because the energy bills going up has been blamed on renewables. Incorrect.
That is
completely incorrect.
Wrong that they don't care.
Rather than
when you see Charles Darwin's tomb being desecrated, when you see Rembrandt's being desecrated, it is an assault on the values that you care about as someone who believes in Western liberal democracy. They absolutely do care, and that's why this group is despised.
I agree, but I just don't think that translates in the ballot box. I don't think that you can look at that and say that's why reform is so
I would also argue that they're hanging up their high-vis jackets because half of them are in prison now, especially their brainchild.
Well, another thing as well is, I mean, Just Stop Oil isn't the first group. Before that, it was Insulate Britain. Before that, it was Extinction Rebellion. And so we know that Just Stop Oil is shutting down. I wouldn't be surprised if in a few weeks we see a new group going around.
There's always
same again.
There was a couple of years ago, there was a new one every week, basically. Like you said, Insulate Britain,
and it's the same people. It's the same people, just rebranding every time.
And then Reform, Brexit Party, a little bit like that, yeah?
Something like that, yeah.
But they get into power.
Well, not yet, Renee. Not yet, Renee. They do have 4 MPs.
They're not into power. They're in the House.
Well, Just Stop Oil have had Miliband, so I think they've done better.
Let's move on because we've got just a minute or so to go. Loads more to come on the show tonight, including, of course, the latest on the tragic events in Myanmar. Have we been scammed by the Labour Party? We're going to have a bit of a debate on that. And is the nanny state back? And after your meal deals, well, that'll be a fun one. All this and more in just a moment. You're watching the Saturday 5 only on GB News.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. It generally starts to become drier across the whole of the UK over the next 24 hours as high pressure starts to build in from the Atlantic. Low pressure has been in charge today, particularly across the north and the west with outbreaks of rain and strong winds. But this ridge of high pressure starts to build in. Still going to be pretty windy across the north and the west through Sunday, but it does turn drier. This weather front is weakening though as it pushes southeastward, so thicker cloud and patchy light rain and drizzle across southern counties into the early hours. Generally clear spells elsewhere overnight, but still blustery showers across northern Scotland, and temperatures overall 7 to 9 Celsius, so not a chilly start to Sunday morning. Early rain across the far southeast should start to disappear, but there will be further blustery showers across northern Scotland first thing tomorrow morning. 1 or 2 of these on the heavy side at times, but in between some sunny spells. Best of the sunshine across Scotland will be across central and southern parts. Also Northern Ireland, a bright start here, plenty of sunny spells. Similar for northern England as well, though cloud amounts vary. There will be plenty of sunny spells across the rest of England and Wales, and temperatures around 10 or 11 Celsius to start the morning, but still pretty breezy breezy, particularly across northern and eastern parts of England and Scotland. It remains this way through the day, so we could see some large waves down the east coast at times through Sunday afternoon as the winds remain brisk here, but elsewhere plenty of sunshine, winds falling much lighter and feeling fairly pleasant out there, temperatures reaching around 15 or 16 Celsius, just chilly along some eastern coasts where we've got that breeze continuing. On Monday, a chilly start, patchy frost and some fog in places, and then most places dry and bright, plenty of sunny spells, though weak weather fronts could give some cloud and some patchy light rain across parts of Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland through the day, and winds for all will be light, and high pressure remains in charge through much of next week, keeping it dry and temperatures above average. See you again soon.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's the final week to see how you can spruce up your spring, as we have an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash to be won. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you the latest Mulberry handbag, and not one, but two sought-after designer watches. Make sure you don't miss out, as lines close on the 4th of April. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Jubes, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point.
He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It is Saturday night, and this is the Saturday 5. I'm Adam Cherry, along with the rest of the panel, along with Will Kingston, Renee Honderkamp, Luca Watson and Kaya Wilshaw. Plenty more to come tonight, including the nanny state going after your meal deals. That'll be a fun one. Keir Starmer loses another core member of his team. And of course, those triggered tantrums are coming your way. It's 7 p.m, and this is the Saturday 5. Well, still to come, is Donald Trump a Eurosceptic, and more on the aftermath of that tragic earthquake in Myanmar. Also, have voters been scammed by the Labour Party? Then we'll also be answering your questions in Ask the Five, so make sure you send those through gbnews.com/your say. And don't forget to vote for your favourite 5 at gbnews.com/poll. So I'm on 10%, Will on 21, Renee 34, Kai on 2, Luca on 33. Oh, wow. It's all to play for. Well, it's a rigged election, and we'll discuss that later.
She gets testy when she's
Oh, okay. Look,
like it.
We've got until 8:30, so we can discuss we'll look at that later on. But first, it's your Saturday night news. Take a look.
Good evening. These are your headlines from the GB Newsroom. More than 1,600 people have been killed in Myanmar and thousands more injured following a 7.7 magnitude earthquake which struck yesterday, causing destruction as far away as Thailand. The death toll continues to rise, with thousands still missing and hundreds believed to be trapped under the rubble of collapsed buildings. Meanwhile, the King has sent a message of condolence, saying he and Queen Camilla are dreadfully shocked and saddened and send their deepest sympathies. Overnight, international leaders, including US President Donald Trump and China's President Xi, also sent their condolences and promised aid. Southeast Asian bloc leaders have also met and say it will ensure a timely and effective humanitarian response, with the first batch of aid being set to arrive on Monday. Denmark's foreign minister has hit back at JD Vance's comments that Copenhagen had not done enough for Greenland. He said, "We are open to criticisms, but let me be completely honest, we do not appreciate the tone in which it's being delivered." Mr. Vance is the first US vice president to visit Greenland in a trip which has caused controversy, as President Donald Trump repeated his call for the US to take over the island. Speaking overnight, the vice president was explicit in his criticism of Denmark, accusing them of underinvesting in Greenland, as he warned of Russia and China's encroachment. Now, back in the UK, the former Archbishop of Canterbury has admitted he got it wrong when dealing with child abuse allegations coming across his desk when he was in post. Justin Welby resigned in November after a review found he failed to properly follow up on reports about serial abuser John Smythe, who was heavily involved with the Church of England. Dr. Welby told the BBC he was overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the child abuse problem within the church. In other news, the parents of a 9-year-old girl were arrested by police after they complained about their daughter's primary school in a WhatsApp group. They said they were questioned on suspicion of harassment, malicious communications, and causing a nuisance on school property. After a 5-week investigation, though, police concluded there should be no further action. And the open-top bus parade carrying the Newcastle United players has emerged from St James's Park, as more than 300,000 fans are expected to have descended on the city today as they mark their Carabao Cup victory. Speaking from the bus, TV presenters and Newcastle United fan Anton Deck described the atmosphere as amazing. The 2-1 win over Liverpool at Wembley secured the club's first domestic trophy in 70 years. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
It is Saturday night and you're with the Saturday 5. I'm Adam Cherry and I can promise you you're in for a very lively hour. In fact, we've got a little bit of breaking news coming in now which I can just bring you, and that is that Prince Harry has been accused of harassment and bullying at scale by the chair of the charity, which I believe he and several others quit the organisation earlier this week, didn't they? So that's just literally just coming into us now as we speak. The Duke of Sussex was said to have initiated the campaign by unleashing of the Sussex PR machine. Sensible Chair Dr. Sophie Chandoka, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Again, this is all coming in live as we speak. The only reason I'm here is because at some point on Tuesday, Prince Harry authored the release of a damaging piece of news to the outside world without informing me or my country directors or my executive director. Guys, this is all getting very messy and pretty serious, isn't it?
I actually feel a bit sorry for him.
Megan not mentioned there?
Well, it's the Sussex PR machine.
It just, as you can imagine, what the attack has done for me and my family and the 540 individuals in the organisations and their family. This is an example of harassment and bullying at scale.
I mean, firstly, I feel sorry for Harry here because this is a charity that was actually very close to his heart because it was in his mother's name. But, you know, I'm suspect of any charity that has 541 employees.
Absolutely.
Right, I'm just going to bring you a little bit more info on it because a source close to the former trustees of the Centrebell charity has described as completely baseless Dr. Chandoka's claims that she was bullied and harassed, briefed against by Prince Harry, or that the Sussex machine was unleashed on her. It's an unbelievable story. Right, OK, well, I think we're going to leave that there for a second. Perhaps we'll come back to that. Oh, no, are we going to carry on with that now, are we, guys? We're going to carry on chatting about it for a little bit. Never mind. All right, ignore me. Let's carry on with this because, all right, look, this is massive, isn't it? And this is going to be all over the Sundays.
It's massive.
This is going to... I mean, I suppose we could have seen something coming given what happened earlier in the week, but this is explosive. Kai, what do you reckon?
You're totally right. And what's really sad, actually, about this is that mention of the Sussex machine. This is history repeating itself, isn't it? The royal family machine, the PR and media machine that has grown around it in the last few decades is insatiable. Of course, Harry and Meghan could leave the royal family, but they couldn't leave behind the way that they manipulate the media, the way in which they try to shape public opinion. I think it's sort of quite disturbing, really. Yeah, I think this is just just a consequence of that, isn't it?
I think the disturbing thing is that Harry and Meghan are insufferable, obnoxious, nasty, arrogant.
Tell us how you really feel.
Bullies.
But you like them otherwise.
And I think everyone now knows it. Like, this isn't the first time we've heard about bullying. I asked about Meghan because normally the bullying allegations are against Meghan specifically. But obviously, where there's smoke, there's a heck of a lot of fire here. They're both awful.
But you know what?
Keep them out of the country for as long as possible.
But you know what? I don't think Prince Harry was awful. I think he was one of those blokes down the pub with his mates and everything. I don't think he was. But I think he's been sucked into this Meghan PR machine. And I actually feel sorry for him. I actually think he's going to end up a broken man, and I think we should worry about him from that perspective.
Renee, he needs to take accountability for his actions. I'm sorry. Like, you can't say, because he's married a witch, suddenly, therefore, he's abrogating
also, Renee,
responsibility.
What did you make of Spare? I mean, you don't have to read it cover to cover. I'm sure it's a thrilling read, but there was some really quite interesting stuff in there.
They were, but it wasn't really levied against him, was it, in that book? It really wasn't. You know what, I think, as we said, using the word spare, I think the spare is always a problematic role, especially if it's inhabited by a man, it would seem, because Princess Anne did OK, but the men haven't done so well. Prince Andrew, Harry...
So let's just return to what Prince Harry said earlier in the week, because I think it's important context. So he said it is devastating that the relationship between the charity's trustees and the chair of the board broke down beyond repair, creating an untenable situation. Although we may no longer be patrons, we will always be its founders, and we will never forget what this charity is capable of achieving when it is in the right care. Harry, the younger son of King Charles, of course, co-founded Centrebell in 2006 in honour of his mother, Princess Diana, 9 years after she was killed in a Paris car crash. Luke, I'm just going to bring you in on this very quickly. What do you make of this one?
All I say is that we've seen time and again accusations of bullying being used to go after people and essentially as an attempted character assassination. So I would be sceptical of people calling others, accusing them of bullying and so on. We've seen it, especially with politicians, civil servants will often use that. So I think with these claims, we need to maybe wait for the evidence to come out, because often it can just be an easy way to get at someone and have their name with negative headlines.
You are completely right. That there's always more to the story than meets the eye.
Yeah, but if this was an isolated allegation, that's one thing. But this isn't the first time we've heard bullying against Sussexes.
Yeah, I should just point out that Meghan was accused of bullying too, but she denies it, and so it's looking pretty messy, isn't it?
I mean, look, I've just shown you a headline that says Harry demanded Africa charity boss publicly defend Meghan, and it always comes back to their coupling, doesn't it? And Meghan's reputation.
Look, this is going to be. I would guess this is all over the Sundays, and it's going to ripple on for quite a long time. But we're going to move on now to another story, because rescue efforts are continuing in Myanmar today after a 7.7 magnitude earthquake struck yesterday, causing destruction as far away as Thailand, and more than 1,000 people are confirmed dead, with thousands more still missing. And international leaders, including US President Donald Trump and China's President Xi, sent their condolences and promised aid, with other leaders to ensure timely and effective humanitarian response. A timely and effective humanitarian response in Myanmar. Sorry, I got there in the end. But all right, panel, what do we make of this one? I mean, it's just an absolutely appalling story, isn't it?
Look, it's really
horrifying.
It's terribly sad. There are people still trapped. They're still looking for people. It's awful, and we should give as much aid as we could. We also do need to be mindful that the military in Myanmar have not been open in the past. We need to know where the money's going, because there's no point giving them loads of money if it just goes into bank accounts of the junta.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that Donald Trump specifically pledged aid, because that was one of the big controversial things he did at the beginning, was to shut down US aid and to really blow up that whole system.
Absolutely.
So it seems that, I mean, this could be how aid works going forward. It's not a constant sending of money to developing countries.
I think it's how aid should work.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's only in disasters.
We're going to bring in our guest here, because to discuss this, from Bangkok, we have journalist Kieran McCrillian. Kieran, thank you for joining us here on the Saturday 5. You're there in Bangkok. What's the latest on the ground at the moment?
Well, the main focus here in Bangkok right now is what's going on behind me, which is the rubble of this 33-story building, which was under construction when the earthquake struck yesterday afternoon at 13:20. What has changed in the last 24 hours since we last spoke is that the Thai military have moved these large cranes in, and what they're doing is they're trying to slowly unpick and pull back some of the rubble in this, because there are fears, or hopes indeed, that there are still some survivors trapped beneath this large building there that has collapsed in on itself. Now, there are some conflicting reports about the number of people who could be inside. The Associated Press is reporting that Thai authorities have told them that 47 people are indeed missing and 6 have been confirmed dead. Now, that's slightly less and lower death toll that we had previously been reporting. So the scene is really what the focus of what's going on in Thailand. It's the rest of the city has pretty much opened up since the gridlock, which was forced on it yesterday by this earthquake 1,000 kilometers away in Mandalay, which so affected the city in such a dramatic fashion, closing shops and large, tall buildings, hotels, etc. So pretty much back to the focus here with the Thai military working around the clock, frantic efforts to try and see if there's anybody still left in the rubble. One final note that I would like to mention, quite a lot of the construction workers in the building behind me would have been ironically from Myanmar, and there have been some of the families and friends that have been coming here today and have been sort of paying a vigil in the sense of hoping to hear some news of their loved ones trapped inside the building. But you have to wonder, this building 1,000 kilometers away from the epicenter, what caused it to collapse?
Thank you very much. So there are people there searching through the rubble as we speak, working around the clock. That's what you're telling us.
That's correct. It's a 24-hour operation. These guys, they work in shifts. So one team will come in of about 50 people. They'll maybe work for 2 hours and then they'll come out. Last night I saw them coming out and it was just etched on their faces, what they'd been through, just the desperation and the disappointment, I think, that some of them are feeling because they haven't really been able to get to many of the people in the rubble who are still alive.
Well, Kieran McQuillan, guys, before we let Kieran go,
Kieran, I'm
jump in.
First to admit, I'm not an expert on Thai politics. Is the current government equipped to be able to handle what sounds like it'll be a very, very big clean-up and recovery effort?
Thailand is very good at mobilizing in moments like this, and the Thai people do come together no matter what the political stripes of the government in charge at the time. I mean, there's a whole ecosystem here of people putting on resources, volunteers, everybody working together to try and to sort out what's going on in the building behind me. But in Myanmar, it's a completely different story, as you were just talking about at the top of the show, and I can talk about that if you wish.
Kieran, I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there for now, but thank you very much, Kieran McQuillan, for joining us from Bangkok. Absolutely horrendous story, and like Kieran said there, going through the rubble in shifts, family members, just.
But you know what? There may well be people alive in there. They get trapped in pockets, and
that's true. I mean, it's obviously it's a very different scenario. But last year I covered a story for this channel where I went to Sicily. Remember there was the boat sinking, the yacht sinking, the super yacht, and that was the thinking there as well, as air pockets. So, often the case, sadly, in that instance, no one survived that from the rescue operation. But it can happen.
Yeah.
So it just prolongs it, and sometimes miracles do happen.
That's why these stories are so tragic, but also poignant, and they attract so much emotion, because there is tragedy, but at the same time, it brings out the very best in humanity as well.
Yeah, absolutely. OK, guys, right, we're going to move on now. A bit of a gear change, but we're going to move on to discuss. This is your final week to see how to win our massive spring giveaway and grab a designer handbag, designer watches, what a gear changer, and an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash. Make sure you don't miss your chance to make it all yours. Here are all the details you need.
It's the final week to see how you could spruce up your spring, as we have an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash to be won. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you the latest Mulberry handbag, and not one, but 2 sought-after designer watches, so you can style it out this spring. Make sure you don't miss out, as lines close on the 4th of April. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Just a reminder of that quite incredible breaking news that Prince Harry has been accused of bullying and harassment at scale by the chair of the charity he set up. That Centrebell Dr. Sophie Chandoka made the claims, but a source close to the former trustees of the charity has described them as completely baseless. Well, still to come tonight, this week's Triggered Tantrums. But next, fuel payments slashed, tax hikes, welfare cuts, national insurance rises, Chagos Islands giveaway and delayed elections. Did anyone vote for this? Was it in the Labour manifesto? The answer is no. Have we been scammed? You're with the Saturday 5 live on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Victims of an absolutely horrific and heartbreaking crime. Exactly 1 month ago, their home was broken into by machete-wielding thugs. Well, RAF officer Jason Shutt and his partner Sashi had £20,000 of cash and valuables taken from their property in Ruislip, West London, while Sashi was being held at Machete Point. Now, the armed gang also stole their beloved pug dog, Ozzy, you can see now on your screens. And the family said they aren't focused on getting the money, the jewellery or the watches back. They just want Ozzy back.
I followed myself through into the dining room area when I heard footsteps coming down the stairs. And at this point, they told me not to move. They had a machete around my neck, turned me and put me up against the bottom banisters. And while this was carrying on, the machete was still around my neck.
He's like a live teddy bear. He was just so cuddly and he was so kind. He was like a human, but obviously as a dog. He was just amazing and yeah.
We can see that dog on the screens there now, and the dog is now missing. And you obviously dearly, dearly would love to get Ozzy back. What can people do to help? Is there any distinctive marks, anything that may help the public out there to assist you in this noble search?
Yeah, well, he's got a scar on his back leg. Obviously, he'll reply to his name, Ozzy.
You can see on screen there, if you're watching at home, there is that distinctive mark. It looks like the back rear leg.
Yeah,
so the back right flank leg there, got that scar, beautiful pug. And I believe the local community have chipped in. They're trying their best to help you as well.
All over social media. They've been great.
GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Now, just a reminder of that quite incredible breaking news. Prince Harry accused of bullying and harassment at scale. A scale by the chair of the charity he set up. That was Dr. Sophie Chandok. I hope I'm saying that right. Please let me know if I'm not. I'm sure you will in the comments. She made the claims, but a source close to the former trustees of the charity has described them as completely baseless. Right, now of course we'll be returning to that story throughout the evening, but it is now time for tonight's main event because winter fuel payments cut, inheritance tax hikes on farmers, cuts to welfare, national insurance rises, handing over of the Chagos Islands, many local elections postponed. Did anybody vote for all that? Was it in Labour's manifesto? Have we been scammed? Seconds out, it is round one. Who's going for it?
Me.
It's you, and of course, it's Kai. I can't imagine Kai's views on this. I'm going to be completely surprised. Right, go for it, guys.
OK, so, I mean, we almost can't debate this because it's a slam dunk. Yes, we've been scammed. The budget last week was an exercise in gaslighting us, telling us we're much better off. But let's look at the facts. Not in the manifesto was the winter fuel payment that they withdrew from pensioners, leaving them to freeze in their home. Their own report said 4,000 pensioners would die if the Tories did this, and they fought the Tories vigorously. Got into power, took it away, don't care about pensioners. The family farm tax. Steve Reid stood last year and said to the farmers, we will not introduce inheritance tax on your businesses. Keir Starmer said farms are not like other businesses, that people need to understand this. What did they do? Took it away. Why? Because they don't want farms, they want solar panels everywhere, and they want us eating insects, and they don't care about farmers because they think farmers vote for the Tories. National insurance hike. In my GP practice, we may be laying off one receptionist because of this. Hospices will have to use their hard-earned cash, they're all charities, to pay for this. This is a tax on growth. They said they wouldn't tax working people, but they will, because it's working people that are going to lose their jobs. Council tax. They said that we would not see a rise in council tax. Well, everybody is seeing at least 5%. And Angela Rayner let other places, 13 in fact, raise theirs by at least 20. She justified that by saying that they asked, sorry, by at least 10. She justified that by saying that they'd asked for 20, but she only let them raise it 10%. Gas bills. We were told that they would be going down by £300. They've actually gone up by 18%. Remember, inflation is 2. The WASPy women were told when Labour were in opposition that they deserved compensation and they deserved it quickly. Now they've been told they won't be getting it at all. Chagos Islands was never mentioned, and now they're giving it away and we're going to pay for the pleasure. These people are a joke. They conned us. None of this was in the manifesto. In my opinion, the manifesto should be a legally binding document.
Whew. Kai.
Whew. Fire and brimstone from Dr. Renee. Look, the reality of governing is that you have to make difficult choices, but also that you have to respond and adapt to the reality that you face. And frankly, this Labour government came in with some understanding of the massive fiscal hole left by 14 years of the Conservatives. But actually, I think what they realised pretty early on is that it was much worse than expected. Now, do I really think that the Labour Party and left-wing MPs really want to be taking these measures? You know, cutting winter fuel payments, cutting welfare? Of course they don't. But there are massive trade-offs to be made. And actually, what we need is a sensible, adult government. And that's what I think the Labour Party is showing. And that's, I think, what the British public want. Because, you know, they understand. I think the British public understand that there are difficult choices to be made. But actually, I think they prefer this compared to, what, 5 chancellors between 2019 and 2022, 4 home secretaries, 6 education secretaries. At least we have some stability and some long-term thinking with the Labour government.
Kai, isn't the point that, and we're going to broaden this out to the whole panel now, but Kai, isn't the point that, yes, these decisions were unpopular, but the government knew they had to make those decisions, but deliberately did not tell the public in the manifesto in advance. Very different to, say, the Conservative Party in 2010, which warned ahead of time that they were going to implement spending cuts and therefore probably even damage their electoral prospects in that election. But they nonetheless had a clearer mandate for it, right? So they knew they were going to do these things. They knew they were going to raise taxes, but they thought this is going to be unpopular, so let's not say anything before July the 4th.
I don't agree with that characterisation. I do agree that, yes, of course, political parties hold things back to seem palatable. I don't think the Labour Party really had a grasp of how big the problem facing the government is before they were elected.
Really?
I really don't think that. And also, can I just, another thing, and we've made this, we've blurred this line already on this show today. There's a difference between being a party, an opposition party with a skeleton staff, you know, a few dozen people, and being a party of government with tens of thousands of civil servants behind you. Now, you can't model out what would need to be done, what different policies you would have to take to cut this and that versus something else. You can't do that as an opposition party.
Of civil servants to tell you that the national debt is in the trillions and the deficit is adding to it every year.
But what you do need tens of thousands of civil servants for is to find a solution, because I don't see any government across the world finding a solution to the mounting debt.
Kai, you've said about this black hole, OK, and even last week she said 22 billion again, about 17 times. Her very own OBR, who she now puts all of her trust in, said at least 3 months ago that there was no 22 billion black hole. At best, they could find a 9 billion black hole. They couldn't find 22. But if they don't clasp that 22, they've got no reason for making pensioners die in their homes and farmers lose their businesses.
Kai, we'll come back to you, but Luca, do you want to jump in?
I'm going to actually agree with Kai a bit. I mean, someone has to.
What's those problems?
I know, right? That's my vote crash. dashed. I know. I'll sacrifice myself.
That poll is finished.
In that, I think he's right. In that the reality of government is very difficult, and the truth is, I think we have a public and electorate who are quite immature, who often want to have their cake and eat it. I mean, we talked about earlier of the needs. We need to, cut taxes, but also then, as soon as if you cut taxes, you have to cut spending, and that means stuff like winter fuel payment has to go.
I'm sorry, you're now talking nonsense as well, because if you cut
that's
taxes,
Kai's effect, is it?
Right. If you cut taxes, you get growth, so you actually get more money.
If it was
you don't get less.
But you argued earlier that we need to cut state spending on stuff like welfare.
Cut taxes, I said.
Sure, right, but so where would you cut the state spending? Stuff like winter fuel payment for pensioners.
The civil service do not need to be there.
Have you seen the benefits bill?
But that's a tiny fraction. That's a tiny fraction of government spending.
We haven't got a huge amount of time. Will.
You cut the benefits bill in half.
Thank you.
Stuff like winter fuel payments.
No.
Is a benefit.
No.
It's a benefit.
Sickness benefits.
But we're talking about sickness benefits, disability benefits. There are people out there who we have encouraged to not work because we've got such a low pay economy. We need to pay people more, get them into work, get the economy growing.
Well, the lowest hanging fruit is, of course, getting rid of the triple log pension, which is a joke and a scandal, frankly, in this country.
Old people, you see, Labour don't like old people. They don't care about them.
It's the third debate today where we could talk about it probably for about 6 or 7 hours, but we can't. We've got to move on because this week's triggered tantrums. It takes a while to load. But next, politicians in Wales passed a law to restrict multi-buy promotions in shops, i.e. meal deals. Is this the return of the nanny state and the end of your meal deal? You're with the Saturday 5 live on GB News.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
After a very wet March, the final couple of days of the month look like seeing some sunshine for Spain and Portugal. But we are going to see some showers over Greece and Turkey. 1 or 2 showers possible for Madeira and the Canaries on Sunday. There's that sunshine over Spain and Portugal, but a northerly breeze will bring a cool feel to the Balearics across Corsica and Sardinia. Plenty of showers for Greece and Turkey on Sunday. They should be fading, though, by Monday, and into Tuesday we'll see some sunshine and temperatures will be rising in Barcelona.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Jubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
I spoke with one of the most inspirational ladies I've ever spoken to today. Her story will stop you in her tracks. Ladies and gents, this is Tina Nash.
Basically, I met Shane Jenkin back in 2009. Basically, he was very, very sweet to me for the first, I'd say 4 or 5 months. And I really fell for him. I've never really been in love properly until I met him. I was laying across the bed with my legs hanging off the bed and I was wrapped up in my duvet. And next thing you know, I had hands through the duvet, start strangling me.
What had he done to you?
He'd come in, he'd beaten me unconscious. My head was twice the size of what it should have been, broken nose, broken jaw. And basically, when I was unconscious, he gouged my eyes out with his bare thumbs. I didn't know that I was blind until basically on that 3rd time that I come back round after he'd knocked me unconscious. When I come back round, I knew that he was trying to kill me then. That is when I knew what he was doing.
Have your eyes recovered? Can you see anything anymore or not?
I haven't got any eyes. These are glass eyes. They're not even real. They're glass.
He was sent to prison, wasn't he? He got a life sentence.
Yeah. With a minimum, of 6 years minimum term.
And that was in 2012?
It was, and the judge said that he had to prove himself fit on a land-in for 6 years with no medical intervention before he is even accepted to be allowed out on the streets. This has not happened.
Goodness me. And am I right now in thinking, Tina, that he's essentially in what most people would know to be an open prison?
Yeah, he's in Cat D.
GB News, the People's Channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Please get in touch, get in contact, gbnews.com/you'll say to get your questions in for us 5. And don't forget to vote for your favourite 5 at gbnews.com/poll. We can now see where we are. We've got an hour to go. All right, I'm on 8, Will's on 15, Renee 34, Kai 4. Luca is on 39%. This is a rigged poll. This is a nonsense poll. We can't be trusting this poll. The vote closes at 8.
And he's told us how.
Yeah, we'll discuss that later. In the meantime, it is now time for this. Bunch of 5. Who's up first? I think it's Will.
I'll take it away, Adam. Another cracker from the UK's incubator of nanny state nonsense, Wales. They have decided to ban or to limit a range of different health measures or foods to try and tell you how to eat and how to live your life. They're stopping putting foods towards the top of or near the counter so that you won't be tempted to pick up a chockie. They're stopping sugary refilled drinks. They're stopping putting unhealthy foods into multi-buy options. I'm just so sick of this stuff. I'm so sick of government thinking that it is their job to tell you how to live your life as opposed to having a very limited, strict set of things that they do. And this is happening everywhere now in the United Kingdom, unfortunately.
Okay, sorry, go for it, Renee.
Right.
Renee is itching to go.
I really want first crack at this. Kai's going to be surprised at this. So there's really, really good data to say that the government and the food companies are already dictating what you eat. And the data showing that when you put these things by the till, and when you do meal deals and 3 for 2, people's behaviour changes dramatically. So I would say if we're changing people's behaviour to the unhealthy option, then what the hell is wrong with the government trying to change it to the healthy option?
Yeah, behavioural science is a thing. We get it, but you can say that about almost anything in life. And if you start saying that the government should state...
But they're already doing it with the meal deals and the 3 for... That is
ultimately
behaviour.
still have the choice whether or not to take the chocolate or not.
Yes, so just put it somewhere else.
Going to bring Kai in very quickly because you just want to defend your homeland for a little bit.
No, there is a difference, as Will says, between a government mandating a certain thing that you can eat versus not, and food companies putting in front of you things that you can choose or not choose.
All right, let's move on because, Renee, you're up next.
I just wanted to say what fantastic news this week about Kathleen Stock and Sussex University were fined £585,000 for failure to protect her academic freedom. She's a philosopher. She has gender-critical views. She was bullied, harassed and hounded out of her job, and Sussex University, her employer, did nothing to protect her. Well, shame on you and well done for the fine.
Hear, hear.
Anyone disagree?
No, look. The university was fined for failing to uphold freedom of speech, and we on this panel disagree like nothing else. But I value the fact that Renee can tell me what's what, and that I can try to go back to Renee. And honestly, I think that should be the case across all our public institutions. Absolutely. So, I can't really fault it.
All right, a rare moment of consensus for the panel, but we're going to move on very quickly because I'm just going to have a go at Downing Street, which is about Matthew Doyle, who is the Downing Street, he was until I think yesterday, the Downing Street Director of Communications. Now, most people at home, there's no reason you would necessarily have heard of him, but you should have heard you should have heard about his work because he was in charge of Labour comms. How do you think the Labour comms have been going since July? Well, he's no longer in post, he has resigned, and it looks like his role has been split into two between two people who perhaps know a little bit more what they're doing. My argument is this probably should have happened a long time ago, and it's a damning indictment of the Labour operation that they have now lost their chief of staff and their comms chief in the space of about 9 months. Is this really the change that everyone was voting for? I mean, I suppose we talked a little bit about it earlier, didn't we?
They have more.
Anyone agree?
Well, this is the oldest political trick in the book. If your policies are rubbish, you say, oh, it's just the messaging that's wrong. It's not the fact that we're doing stuff which is really damaging. It's just we need to tell the story in a better way. So they're finding a scapegoat for rubbish policies.
Anyone disagree?
Yes.
Yes.
and you know, I think Matthew's an incredible operator. He's actually been with Keir Starmer since the Hartlepool by-election in 2021. So if you think about where the Labour Party was then compared to now, actually, that's quite a transformation. But I would argue, actually, lots of the Labour government's problems have been to do with the communication and the framing of the things that they're doing. Because actually, I think there's a really positive news story to come out of what the Labour government's doing. And that's not being transmitted and broadcast enough.
Luca's expression tells a real story.
No, I was just going to ask, what is that positive news story? Because I think everyone seems to have missed it.
I think the Labour government is, number one, reforming things that need to be reformed, that many people weren't willing to tackle. You know, we know that the Tories said, oh, we could never get rid of NHS England. Well, now the Labour Party's doing that. They're changing welfare, sizing down the states, the size of the state, but also increasing people's, the minimum wage and so on. The people at the lowest rung of society, trying to improve their welfare standards.
And
there's a bunch of things, but also taking really quite long-term view and taking, making policies that actually won't bear fruit for a while. And I think that's quite great.
We're going to have to move on to Luca's story, but you know what? Let's do that now because we'll come back to that later. Luca, let's do your story right away.
Sure. So my story is that a group of British parliamentarians have got together to campaign for a brand new airport in an area which is currently underserved. Now, is it the Scottish Highlands or somewhere in Wales, maybe the southwest of England? Not quite. It's Kashmir. Yeah, Kashmir in Pakistan. Because apparently this is a very pressing concern for their constituents, that Kashmir currently does not have an international airport. Now, I wonder exactly where these people's priorities lie. They are elected to the British Parliament, and yet they seem to be spending all their time worrying about issues that are far, far away. And also, there's a hypocrisy from many of the MPs who signed this campaign letter to the Prime Minister of Pakistan, which is that many of them campaigned against airport expansion in this country due to climate commitments, but apparently an airport in Pakistan doesn't cause any kind of emissions or any carbon at all. So there we have one example of one MP.
That's Rosina Allen Khan, for those listening on radio.
Yeah, the MP for Tooting, who opposed a third runway at Heathrow, which would of course boost the British economy because it is incompatible with our climate targets, but she's all for an extra runway in Pakistan.
Yeah, look, I'm glad you brought that up because it feels the story here to me, of course, is the fact they're campaigning on issues of the other side of the globe. But really, the hypocrisy stuff is unbelievable, isn't it? Will, what do you reckon?
Oh, I think that Labour MPs trying to get a new airport up and running in Pakistan is the symbolic story for politics in the UK in 2025.
Yes, it's a cynical vote grab. So they're not saying totally what people want on Palestine, so they'll just switch it to something else where they can actually smooth the egos and make people happy.
Kai, what do you reckon? And then we're going to come to your story as well.
Well, I think it's important that you take into account the diaspora. Actually, in Pakistan, well, in the UK rather, there's a number of people who are from Pakistani heritage. So why shouldn't MPs advocate on their behalf? However, the irony here is unmistakable, and this should not be the key focus of any Labour MP when we've got such intense, important issues to be dealing with in this country.
The hypocrisy side of this, I think, is slightly stronger. Kai, what's your story?
Mine is to do with the signal chats between some of the most senior US government officials that show an unyielding and actually quite disgusting anti-Europeanism, in which, by the way, we're caught. Now, J.D. Vance, in some recently released chats on the encrypted messaging platform Signal, talked about how the US attacking the Houthis in Yemen was not actually something he was that keen on, because it would give a free ride to Europe. Pete Hegseth, the Defence Secretary, also said, and I quote, "I fully share your loathing of European freeloading. It's pathetic." Now, neither of these big brains, of course, mentioned that the Houthis, being Iranian proxies, are exactly the kind of people that the US would want to bomb anyway, regardless of whether it benefits Europe. But doesn't this belie an anti-Europeanism and, I might say, an anti-Britishism in the heart of the US government?
Let's go to Will first on that one. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it does, and I think they're right to believe that. It's just undisputable that Europe has been freeloading off US security guarantees for a long time. In this instance, I think you're right that I don't think this was the right forum for them to be having this conversation, and I think they were right to actually have launched that particular attack on the Houthis. But the broader point around being sceptical of Europe is the right point.
Renee?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think on one side of this, you heard this story and you had a bit of a giggle because it was just so silly.
Yeah.
But on the other side of it, I do find it quite astounding that politicians of any colour in any country around the world still feel safe enough to have these chats in any kind of app. It is lunacy, absolute lunacy.
Luca, what do you reckon?
Well, on the point of Europe freeloading, I don't think we should feel too sorry for America. We have to remember that Europe did once have an independent foreign policy. It did once have very strong armies, and it was America who did everything in their power to try and destroy that. I mean, Britain once did have an independent foreign policy east of Suez, and then, of course, it was the Americans that ensured that we no longer did. So they can't have it both ways. They can't force Europe to be vassal states dependent on America and then complain when Europe are vassal states dependent on America. They need to make their mind up.
Going back 80 years, mate. Like,
yeah, but that's the point. But this is a system that the Americans set up because it suited them, and all of a sudden now they're having a hissy fit about
Winston
it.
Churchill set up alongside the Americans did that. It wasn't just the Americans who set up that system.
The Americans smashed the British Empire after the Second World War. That was their
intention. The British Empire smashed the British Empire, and they're continuing to do it to this day.
Right, OK. Let's a bit of a history lesson here, but we're going to move on because still to come tonight on the Saturday 5.
By the way, not one person ever in my office has ever used the word Latinx.
So can we finally put that to bed?
Yeah,
we agree?
Where did that even
No more Latinx, everybody.
Yeah. There we go, perfect. Triggered Tantrums is next. You're with the Saturday 5, live on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. It generally starts to become drier across the whole of the UK over the next 24 hours as high pressure starts to build in from the Atlantic. Low pressure has been in charge today, particularly across the north and the west with outbreaks of rain and strong winds, but this ridge of high pressure starts to build in. Still going to be pretty windy across the north and the west through Sunday, but it does turn drier. This weather front is weakening though as it pushes southeastward, so thicker cloud and patchy light rain and drizzle across southern counties into the early hours. Generally clear spells elsewhere overnight, but still blustery showers across northern Scotland, and temperatures overall 7 to 9 Celsius, so not a chilly start to Sunday morning. Early rain across the far southeast should start to disappear, but there will be further blustery showers across northern Scotland first thing tomorrow morning. One or two of these on the heavy side at times, but in between some sunny spells. Best of the sunshine across Scotland will be across central and southern parts. Also Northern Ireland, a bright start here, plenty of sunny spells. Similar for northern England as well, though cloud amounts vary. There will be plenty of sunny spells across the rest of England and Wales, and temperatures around 10 or 11 Celsius to start the morning, but still pretty breezy, particularly across northern and eastern parts of England and Scotland. It remains this way through the day, so we could see some large waves down the east coast at times through Sunday afternoon as the winds remain brisk here, but elsewhere plenty of sunshine, winds falling much lighter and feeling fairly pleasant out there. Temperatures reaching around 15 or 16 Celsius, just chilly
along some eastern coast where we've got that breeze continuing. On Monday, a chilly start, patchy frost and some fog in places, and then most places dry and bright, plenty of sunny spells, though weak weather fronts could give some cloud and some patchy light rain across parts of Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland through the day, and winds for all will be light, and high pressure remains in charge through much of next week, keeping it dry and temperatures above average. See you again soon.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Now, coming up from 8 p.m, it is Ask the 5. So send your questions through gbnews.com/you'll say. And don't forget to vote for your favourite 5 at gbnews.com/poll. We've got an update on the latest result. All right, so I've gained a couple of... what was I on? I'm on 9% now, brilliant. Will, you're on 16. Renee, 34. Kai, 4. Sorry about that, Kai. Luca pulling ahead on 37%, right? OK, so the vote closes at 8:30 p.m.
It's getting close.
It's getting close.
Mum, can you vote for me, please?
It's getting close. Right, now, roll up, roll up. The circus is in town. It's time for the triggered... Let's try that again, Joe. It is time for the triggered tantrums. We haven't even got the booze in yet. You've got a free ticket to this week's Ringmasters of Rage, Clowns of Collapse, and Acrobats of Absurdity, tumbling over zilch. Just wait until you see this lot. Oh, Will?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Sorry, yeah. Right, Will.
I'm glad that you used the word tumbling, because tumbling is the appropriate word for this one. I think we've seen so many hectoring lefties looking at MAGA supporters, and karma, can I tell you, well, karma sucks. Let's have a look at this clip.
You're okay with that? He's a racist. How can I be racist? He's a racist. Okay with my stuff. I hope you enjoy the hat.
Oh, boy. It's it's hard to have a great deal of sympathy, isn't it?
It is. You know, so years ago, this sort of disaster would happen, and then no one would really know about it.
Well, this is the thing.
Everyone on Earth has a camera now, so the worst moment of your life, everyone sees it, and then on a panel show, we all sort of mock you and make
But the interesting little thing as well is that obviously that there are more people who have the confidence to wear MAGA hats in the middle of Manhattan, which I tell you what would not have happened 5 years ago.
It's a good point, yeah, absolutely. It slightly different attitude towards the campaign this time, wasn't it? Right, OK, Renee, you're next.
Yeah, so we've heard over the last few years how everything is racist, everything, you know, and I think I won't need to say any more than look at this. Did you know that this was racist?
Same diets as white women, we lose less weight and we lose it slower, even when we're following the diet than our white women counterparts. It's literally that the racism that you're experiencing and the struggle to make ends meet actually means the diet don't work for you the same.
Wow. Renee, you're a doctor, is that true?
Of course it's not true. Just, you know, it's just crazy. People are overweight because diets are racist? Come on.
It's all about taking a little bit of personal responsibility. Right, now, moving on, my one. OK, so there was a reform rally yesterday, and, well, take a look at this. The brilliant chaps over at, is it Led by Donkeys? They showed up and did this on the side of the building. Right, so these chaps are led by donkeys. Fine, they have their stunts and they have a good time making fun of Liz Truss with the lettuce and all that. But look, they never seem to do this to the people who are actually leading the country, right? Led by donkeys. I never see anything projected on the side of Whitehall when the Treasury is about to cut winter fuel payments or whatever it is, or Rachel Reeves is about to absolutely just slash the spending on what is it, on welfare. It just it seems like they're slightly targeted here, aren't they?
When we are literally being led by donkeys.
Yeah. Well, what this demonstrates is the left now knows that reform is well and truly a threat, and they are threatened by them.
Absolutely right. OK, let's move on because, Luca, what's your... Oh, no, excuse me, we're going to do that afterwards. I got too excited. Don't go anywhere because up next, it is the Saturday 5 Extra. We're going to let our hair down a bit. Anything can happen. Okay, great. What could go wrong? So get ready. We'll be back in just a moment with apparently pints of beer. Here we go.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. It generally starts to become drier across the whole of the UK over the next 24 hours as high pressure starts to build in from the Atlantic. Low pressure has been in charge today, particularly across the north and the west with outbreaks of rain and strong winds, but this ridge of high pressure starts to build in. Still going to be pretty windy across the north and the west through Sunday, but it does turn drier. This weather front is weakening though as it pushes southeastward, so thicker cloud and patchy light rain and drizzle across southern counties into the early hours. Generally clear spells elsewhere overnight, but still blustery showers across northern Scotland, and temperatures overall 7 to 9 Celsius, so not a chilly start to Sunday morning. Early rain across the far southeast should start to disappear, but there will be further blustery showers across northern Scotland first thing tomorrow morning. One or two of these on the heavy side at times, but in between some sunny spells. Most of the sunshine across Scotland will be across central and southern parts. Also Northern Ireland, a bright start here, plenty of sunny spells. Similar for northern England as well, though cloud amounts vary. There will be plenty of sunny spells across the rest of England and Wales, and temperatures around 10 or 11 Celsius to start the morning, but still pretty breezy, particularly across northern and eastern parts of England and Scotland. It remains this way through the day, so we could see some large waves down the east coast at times through Sunday afternoon as the winds remain brisk here, but elsewhere plenty of sunshine, winds falling much lighter and feeling fairly pleasant out there. Temperatures reaching around 15 or 16 Celsius, just chilly along some eastern coasts where we've got that breeze continuing. On Monday, a chilly start, patchy frost and some fog in places, and then most places dry and bright, plenty of sunny spells, though weak weather fronts could give some cloud and some patchy light rain across parts of Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland through the day, and winds for all will be light, and high pressure remains in charge through much of next week, keeping it dry and temperatures above average. See you again soon.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could spruce up your spring, as we have an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash to be won. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you the latest Mulberry handbag, and not one, but two sought-after designer watches. Make sure you don't miss out, as lines close on the 4th of April. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. I'm Adam Cherrier, alongside Will Kingston, who's got the worst poured beer I've ever seen in my entire life, Renee Honeycamp, Luca Watson and Kyle Wilshaw. It's 8 p.m. and this is the 5 Extra. Still to come tonight. Why Donald Trump being Eurosceptic is actually a good thing. We'll find out Prince William's favourite emoji, and apparently Kai will bring us our weekly Beavers update. Okay.
Excellent.
All right. Yep. Then we'll be answering your questions in the Ask the Five. So of course send them through gbnews.com/you'll say, and don't forget to vote for your favourite 5 at gbnews.com/poll. There we go. Ooh. I'm on 9%. Will on 15. Renee 38, back in the lead. Kai on 4.
That's my mum.
And Luca on 34. All right, so the poll closes in about half an hour, so get your votes in. But first, it is time for your Saturday Night News with Sophia Wensler.
Oh, it's pretty good.
Good evening. These are your headlines from the GB Newsroom. More than 1,600 people have been killed in Myanmar and thousands more injured following a 7.7 magnitude earthquake which struck yesterday, causing destruction as far away as Thailand. The death toll continues to rise, with thousands still missing and hundreds believed to be trapped under the rubble of collapsed buildings. Meanwhile, the King has sent a message of condolence, saying he and Queen Camilla are dreadfully shocked and saddened and send their deepest sympathies. Overnight, international leaders, including US President Donald Trump and China's President Xi, also sent their condolences and promised aid. Southeast Asian bloc leaders have also met and say it will ensure a timely and effective humanitarian response, with the first batch of aid being set to arrive on Monday. Denmark's foreign minister has hit back at JD Vance's comments that Copenhagen had not done enough for Greenland. He said, "We are open to criticisms, but let me be completely honest, we do not appreciate the tone in which it's being delivered." Mr. Vance is the first US vice president to visit Greenland in a trip which has caused controversy, as President Donald Trump repeated his call for the US to take over the island. Speaking overnight, the vice president was explicit in his criticism of Denmark, accusing them of underinvesting in Greenland, as he warned of Russia and China's encroachment. Now, back in the UK, the former Archbishop of Canterbury has admitted he got it wrong when dealing with child abuse allegations coming across his desk when he was in post. Justin Welby resigned in November after a review found he failed to properly follow up on reports about serial abuser John Smythe, who was heavily involved with the Church of England. Dr. Welby told the BBC he was overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the child abuse problem within the church. In other news, the parents of a 9-year-old girl were arrested by police after they complained about their daughter's primary school in a WhatsApp group. They said they were questioned on suspicion of harassment, malicious communications and causing a nuisance on school property. After a 5-week investigation, though, police concluded there should be no further action. And the open-top bus parade carrying the Newcastle United players has emerged from St James's Park as more than 300,000 fans are expected to have descended on the city today as they mark their Carabao Cup victory. Speaking from the bus, TV presenters and Newcastle United fan Anton Deck described the atmosphere as amazing. The 2-1 win over Liverpool at Wembley secured the club's first domestic trophy in 70 years. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome back. Now, for that extraordinary breaking news, we're going to discuss this. What's in this? Prince Harry has been accused of harassment and bullying at scale by the boss of a charity he helped set up. Earlier this week, the Duke of Sussex announced he was stepping down as a trustee of Sensible, which he set up in honour of his mother, Princess Diana. And now Sensible chair Dr. Sophie Chandoka has spoken out against him in an interview with Sky News.
At some point on Tuesday, Prince Harry authorized the release of a damaging piece of news to the outside world without informing me, or my country directors, or my executive director. And can you imagine what that attack has done for me, on me, and the 540 individuals in the Centre Valley organizations and their family? That is an example of harassment and bullying at scale.
Now, I must say that Prince Harry has not offered a statement in response to this, but a source close to him said the accusations are, quote, completely baseless. And a former trustee of his said that in his experience, there was never even a hint of that. And we're now joined by royal biographer Angela Levin. Angela, thank you for joining us, particularly at short notice like this. What do you make of these allegations?
Well, they're fascinating, actually. I think a lot of it is to do with they didn't get on very well. And they were also, Dr. Chanduka was also very, very annoyed with Meghan. I'd just go through it quite quickly, that Harry had stopped going to school and desperately unhappy about his mother. And King Charles thought he should go to Africa. He went there and he saw this group of orphans whose parents had died from IVF or something, HIV or something like that. And he stayed there and he met up with the prince under Prince Sieso, who'd also lost his mother. So they built this charity. And it's been his love. He's loved it so much. He talked to me a lot about it when I was writing his biography. But he hadn't been there for 6 years. And he hadn't done so very much. And it's difficult if you're in America and you should be in Africa. It's quite hard. So they got into a sort of really nasty discussion between Dr. Sophie, who people think is wonderful and very talented, and other people who think Harry is the same. But they both think there's a negative and a positive there. And it's an extraordinary attack on each other. It started off with Meghan, actually, because they had a polo game to raise money for this charity. And Meghan got very, very cross when Dr. Chanduka tried to sit in the middle when they won the award. And she kept trying to push her out the way. And she actually wasn't that sort of woman you could do that to, and got very, very annoyed with her. And the public could see Meghan was pushing her out. So she was asked if she would help the press say how wonderful Meghan is, and she got very cross about that too. So what we've left with is Dr. Chanduka saying that we've got to do things with these children and we mustn't be told what we're doing. And it's absolutely the way people are speaking handling this are shocking. And Harry, who is desperately unhappy. But there's no legal action on Harry. But she says that she's been very badly bullied, and especially directed at black women, which actually, you can imagine, stand very badly with Harry and
Angela, of course, they both, at the moment, we understand they deny these claims. I'm just going to bring in my co-panellist here, Will Kingston. Will's got a question for you. Will, take it away.
Yeah, Angela, when these stories pop up, there is this narrative that emerges that Harry is maybe a bit naive, a bit dim, but still fundamentally a decent bloke who's been led astray by awful Meghan. To what extent do you actually think Harry is his own man, or to what extent do you think that narrative perhaps has a grain of truth to it?
Well, I knew him quite well. I was with him for 15 months when I wrote his book. I thought he was terrific, and he had tremendous sense about how to deal with children and people. Very good. All that's gone when he met Meghan. I think she's taken every inch of his ability away from him, and he's scared of her, and so he doesn't know what to do. So his life is very, very difficult.
Renee, did you want to have a question for Angela as well?
Hi, Angela. Just very quickly, the story goes, if we listen to Dr. Chandokar, that he made his announcement last week without any consultation with the charity. That in itself is just naive and poor management, isn't it?
That's true. That is true. But I think he was probably at the end of his, he couldn't bear things. I mean, he's had a very bad time, actually, lately, hasn't he? And I think he doesn't think about other people. He doesn't know quite what to do. I don't know how much he dislikes her, but I don't know how much she dislikes him. But the whole thing seems rather childish, that they couldn't sit down and actually discuss it all and be sensible about it.
Angela, sorry, Angela, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there because we have to move on. I really appreciate you coming on at such short notice. That's really helpful. Thank you, Angela. Take care. Wow, OK, it's now time for Ask the Five, so let's get stuck into your questions. All right, our first question this evening comes from David.
Good afternoon, it's David from Watford here. I'd like to ask the panel, at what point do they believe that Keir Starmer, Angela Rayner, Rachel Reeves and the rest of the Labour government will suddenly cotton on to the fact that they cannot blame the Conservatives, Donald Trump, the Ukraine, Putin, the latest earthquake, or riots in Outer Mongolia for their inept handling of the UK limited economy?
So David is basically saying, how much goodwill have they got that they can rely on for the last government being so poor in their view?
Sadly, I think they will continue to do it unless things take a turn for the better. If we get some growth, if we get some positive job news, if they manage to cut the welfare state, it will all be Labour. It won't be anything to do with the Tories. But until that happens, it will be the Tories.
And also don't forget, next week, awful April, it's all going to come crashing down a little bit on our heads, isn't it, with those bill hikes? It's going to be unbelievable. Kai, what do you reckon?
Yeah, no, I really resent this tit-for-tat politicking where the Labour Party blames the Conservatives. And let's not forget, the Conservatives milked the whole there's no money left quip for over a decade, right? But that's lazy.
So you're talking about the note that was left in the drawer.
The note that was
by Liam Byrne, who was the outgoing Labour MP. What was he, the Chief Secretary of the Treasury, I believe? Some sort of senior. And that, David Cameron waved it around like a prop, right?
Yeah, and the successive Conservative governments used that as a proxy for Labour not being able to be trusted with the public finances. But I think it's lazy to just blame the previous party. I hope that actually the Labour Party can stand on its own 2 feet very soon and see the fruit of its policies that they've enacted so far and have a good news story and something to tell the nation about itself rather than focus on what...
Luca, very quickly, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think Labour, when they stood for election. They said they had a plan. They knew what to do to fix it. It's still early days, 9 months, but they've now had their budget. I think by the next budget, if it shows that their plan hasn't been working, then they can't just keep pointing fingers.
And of course, that's in October, so we'll, you know, it's this year.
Will they? Can I just say something quick?
Go for it, Will.
This is the oldest political trick in the book, to blame the last government. But the difference here is there is a legitimate third force in politics that has emerged, which is not the last government and it's not the current government, and that is reform. So if they keep blaming the Conservatives, that's fine, but Reform are going to say, you guys are awful, the previous government were awful, we're the ones who can fix it. That's where this may actually fall down.
Right, should we move on to our next question? Oh.
Good afternoon, panel. So today's question is around a change in employment laws that are coming our way for employers. And something that's come to light recently is a case of work colleagues going out together of an evening, but not going out with all of their work colleagues, just a small team within a team. The employer has been told that this could potentially be perceived as bullying because the other individual or another member of the team has not been invited out. What's the view on where do we draw the line as employers in deciding who our team can and can't be friends with?
I mean, do employers have this sort of pastoral function? Isn't this the sort of thing you do in primary school? Let the employees decide for themselves, right? Am I wrong?
And let employees be grown-ups, you know, that you can't like everybody in the world. It's a fact. It doesn't happen in the playground and it doesn't happen in the workplace. No employers should not be responsible for after-hours socialising.
Renee, this is part of a broader issue, and this is what happens, for example, when you tell people or direct people what they should and shouldn't eat, for example.
What a callback that was.
That the
Brilliant.
government infantilises people now through employment law, through laws around food, through pretty much every part of society. That's the thing that's so annoying. And I think you said it right. Treat us like adults.
It does. Is this a new thing since the pandemic, I wonder? Like a creeping sense?
Well, no, because no one's gone back to work since the pandemic.
Well, no, good point. And then when they do, apparently half of them get invited to the pub. Guys, what do you reckon?
I do think there is something in there about the pandemic, because personally, I love going into the office. Yeah. And I think that, not always, but I think that by working from home, lots of the younger generation are missing out on the key social tissue, connections that bind colleagues together and make them friends. Yes. And actually, this kind of sort of nannying by employers is exactly the result of that kind of transactional relationship between an employer and an employee, rather than something where actually, as an employee, you gain a lot from being in the office and being with your colleagues.
Absolutely right, that sort of spontaneity, whatever you might call it, being in the same space with people, of course it makes a difference. We're social creatures, right? Yeah. Luca, what do you reckon?
Yeah, well, I think it's obviously a law that has good intentions. There will be people who are excluded and feel left out. Maybe they're lacking a bit in social skills. Maybe they're, neurodivergent or something like that, which is why they're not being invited.
Look, they're adults.
Yeah, sure, I understand that, but my point is that clearly...
Neurodivergency is a code word for variations of personality.
Yeah, I know,
These people have always existed.
But
of course, but they've always been excluded. And my point is that I don't think we should be dismissive of the complaints by some people that they feel excluded. It can make life very miserable. But do I think it's the role of the state to enforce people to hang out and enforce people to go out for a drink together? No, I do think that is overreach. I think there are other ways in which maybe trying to be more inclusive with your colleagues can be encouraged without it being something that employers have to do.
Right, yeah, it's basic good manners to be polite to people and don't be rude. And I suppose occasionally invite people to have a drink, but it is not the role of an employer who's already struggling with a bunch of other things, including what's happening next week with rises to taxes and whatever, to start saying I'm now going to organise book club and drinks with everyone, and it's not the role.
Likewise, people should be absolutely free to choose who they go and have a drink with.
Yes.
Of course. Here we are, look.
And also, people should be decent people and, be generous to people around them who they work with. Yeah. But, yes, as you say...
you out for a drink.
That is true, that's true. To your great credit.
We absolutely do. Right, moving on, because still to come tonight on the Saturday 5 Extra.
By the way, not one person ever in my office has ever used the word Latinx.
So can we finally put that to bed?
Yeah,
we agree?
Where did that even
No more Latinx, everybody.
Will's a big fan. Trigger tantrums are coming up. But next, Donald Trump is taking on the EU. Tariffs, trade wars, and an America First agenda. But is his hardline stance a win for Brexit Britain, or is it a risky gamble?
Proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, like yourself, I'm an Oldham boy, so I remember as a kid the holidays in Blackpool were just incredible. And I think, what we did with this survey was trying to understand where people said they wanted to go, but I think the key bit was why. So we wanted to understand what was important about the UK holiday, and also just understand a little bit about, attitudes to travelling abroad and the UK. And I think, for me, 61% of people said the reason they need a holiday is family time. So for me, to be honest, whether that's in Cornwall, whether it's Essex, Lancashire, it doesn't matter. What really matters is that time together, isn't it, with your family, your loved ones, that I think we all need more and more in a nutty world in which we live at the moment. So, it's what you're doing on holiday as well as where you're going.
Andy, how can we find a good deal out of this? What are some tips and tricks for keeping the spending under control if you're looking for if you're going to Cornwall, for example? I'd imagine if you're looking in July or August, it's going to be pretty expensive, right?
My advice would be, research really carefully where you want to go. Think about what the location can offer, and we've got a range of holiday parks. What the holiday park can offer to you, and just try and plan early. I think it just takes that pressure away from later on. Everyone's on a to a degree of budget these days, but again, I think it's that time together that people will be willing to pay for.
Of course, part of the research as well, Andy, was to do with the economy. 62% of people you asked said that Brits feel we should be going on staycations in order to support our economy. Just how important is that?
Yeah, I think it's really important. It's, the British tour economy is worth many billions per annum, employs, hundreds of thousands of people in tourism.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
All right, welcome back to the Saturday Fight. It's all deteriorating. We've only had a pint and a bit, but it's going pear-shaped. Anyway, please get in contact at gbnews.com/your say. We want your questions because we're going to do the Ask for Five. Thank you for your messages so far. Also, by the way, don't forget to vote for your favourite five at gbnews.com/poll. Will loves this segment, by the way. He really during the break, it was all kicking off. OK.
Adam, sorry,
I don't know why. I'm behind you.
Adam, pause for a second. Yeah. Let's break the fourth wall here, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. This is ridiculous. Every single person on this panel is on their mobile phones, in their WhatsApp groups, saying, please vote for me, please vote for me. Absolute farce.
That is not true. And also, I would argue that is such a story.
It's the most rigged election since 2020. It's wrong.
Right. Well. First of all, you're beating me, so I don't even know why. But, right, is that not just campaigning? Would you shout at...
But it's actually not even true.
It's also not true.
We did find out earlier that Luca has a big friends base who were helping.
Well, clearly it hasn't helped enough. Yeah, I think I peaked too early here.
What happened was Luca started saying we have a dumb
immature electorate. I'm afraid a few people didn't like that one.
Sorry, Luca, my friend.
And you like
the vote closes in about 8 minutes.
Yeah,
but in the meantime, Donald Trump is shaking up US-EU relations. He's branding the European Union a trade adversary and slamming Brussels with massive tariffs. And President Trump claims to be putting America first, prioritising jobs, challenging EU protectionism. And his scepticism aligns with rising national conservative movements across Europe. For Brexit Britain, however, by the way, he's being lauded as the most pro-British president since Ronald Reagan, although I think the incoming tariffs might put paid to that. But anyway, is Donald Trump's hardline stance a necessary correction or is it a dangerous escalation? Well, we are joined by the director of the Margaret Thatcher Centre for Freedom at the Heritage Foundation, Niall Gardner. Niall, thank you for joining us. I'm just going to put it to you. Is the President of the United States a massive Eurosceptic?
Well, thanks for having me on the show today. And yes, I do think that Donald Trump is really America's first Eurosceptic president. He views the European Union as a monument to big government socialism. He also sees the EU as a protectionist mafia-style racket, basically, raising tariffs against US goods. And he's retaliating, of course, by threatening to impose US tariffs of around 25% on EU imports. And so Trump is calling actually on the EU to just remove all of its protectionist barriers against the United States. And if the EU did that, then we wouldn't have any kind of trade war at all. But the European Union, of course, always tries to protect its own domestic industry. And the common agricultural policy, for example, is set up to protect French farmers, and it costs about a third of the EU budget. So Trump is fighting back, I think, against the European Union. I think that's a good thing. And Trump, of course, is a huge Brexiteer, Eurosceptic, and he's opposed to the European projects. All of that, I think, is good for the US and for the United Kingdom as well.
But Niall, it looks like the Labour government here is not going to get a trade deal over the line before April, which means we're about to be whacked with tariffs as well. So all this talk of Donald Trump being a Brexiteer and a friend of the country, and then again his second state visit, it's all been for nothing, hasn't it? We're about to be in for a lot of economic pain.
Well, of course, the UK is not subject to tariffs applied against the European Union, and Donald Trump has made it clear that he wants to see a trade deal with the UK over the course of the next year or so. And if Keir Starmer plays his cards right and distances himself from the European Union, then I think the UK can avoid tariffs, actually. And so these tariffs are being applied specifically against the EU. Trump is very pro-British. He is somebody who does not want to see any kind of trade war with the United Kingdom. And so Keir Starmer really, I think, should be aligning himself more with Washington rather than with Brussels. After all, the British people voted in large numbers to leave the European Union in 2016. Keir Starmer needs to respect that vote, the will of the British people. There's nothing to be gained from kowtowing to Brussels. And so Donald Trump, I think, is very keen to move forward with a trade deal with the United Kingdom.
Luca, did you have a question there?
Yeah, my question was, I mean, given how belligerently Trump has treated allies such as Canada and the way the administration has spoken about Denmark recently, I mean, it seems like the opposite of what we should be doing is trying to get closer to Trump. He just doesn't seem like a reliable partner.
Well, the reality is that Donald Trump is the leader of the free world, his most powerful figure in the world. The United Kingdom, of course, has a very keen interest in working closely with the United States. Actually, Keir Starmer, in fact, had a very good meeting with Donald Trump about a month ago in Washington. Clearly, I think the British government is trying to work closely with the United States, despite significant ideological differences. The US-UK special relationship, of course, is the beating heart of the free world. Trump wants to have a very, very close partnership with the United Kingdom. It makes no sense, I think, for the UK to adopt anti-US or anti-Trump rhetoric, the kind of rhetoric that we're seeing, for example, from Ursula von der Leyen and EU bureaucrats. And so it's in Britain's interest, of course, to be close to the United States. And the US and UK, of course, have the closest partnership in the world. So that should continue.
Yeah, sorry, no, I'm just going to bring in my co-panelist here, Will Kingston. He's got a question for you.
Yeah, no, it's interesting the changing dynamics on the right in the US, because if you're a traditional Reaganite conservative, this type of economic policy would be anathema to you. You know, this is a protectionist economic policy that in one time would have been embraced by the left. You are part of the Heritage Foundation. The Heritage Foundation was once part of that great tradition. Some people have criticised it in more recent times for following more the MAGA route. How do you think about how you square the circle of traditional right-wing conservatism, which is about economic liberalism and free trade, and this sort of policy, which is obviously not a free trade position?
Well, thanks for your question, Will. And I believe in free trade, but trade has to be on a level playing field, and it should be fair trade between the United States and Europe. The EU doesn't, frankly, play by the rules. The EU operates really as a huge protectionist racket, frankly, and it discriminates, of course, against US goods coming in. It also discriminates, in some respects, against the United Kingdom as well. And I do believe that if we are to see full free trade between the United States and Europe, then the EU has to get rid of its protectionist tariffs, actually. And so I think that the best way to move forward, of course, is through free trade, but that can only be achieved if the EU lifts its own protectionist barriers. And for many decades, of course, it has discriminated heavily against US producers, especially car manufacturers, for example, the US farm industry. This is unacceptable, and there is a big backlash in the United States against this. And the EU does not operate as a free trading actor on the international stage, far from it. And so Trump is throwing down the gauntlet. It's up to the EU, I think, to respond by lowering and eliminating trade barriers, and then we can move to a full free trade position.
No, I'm going to leave it there, I'm afraid, but thank you very much for joining us. That was Niall Gardner, the director of the Margaret Thatcher Centre for Freedom at the Heritage Foundation. Now, coming up on the Saturday 5 Extra. There it is.
It was. You mentioned the aubergine emoji was your favourite.
Prince William clearly loves an aubergine emoji. OK, all right. There we go.
You had to read.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
After a very wet March, the final couple of days of the month look like seeing some sunshine for Spain and Portugal. But we are going to see some showers over Greece and Turkey. 1 or 2 showers possible for Madeira and the Canaries on Sunday. There's that sunshine over Spain and Portugal, but a northerly breeze will bring a cool feel to the Balearics across Corsica and Sardinia. Plenty of showers for Greece and Turkey on Sunday. They should be fading, though, by Monday, and into Tuesday we'll see some sunshine and temperatures will be rising in Barcelona.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Jubes, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GBNews, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
All right, welcome back to the Saturday 5 Extra. It is now time for High Five, where we discuss our favourite moments of the past week. Will, you're up.
Yeah, well, it's an important time for the monarchy, isn't it? We've already heard tonight that Harry's awful, Meghan sucks. Charles' woke instincts are coming to the surface more and more by the day. So William has a lot on his shoulders. So it was nice to see this fun little exchange this week at Clarkson's farm. Let's see the clip.
It was. You mentioned the aubergine emoji was your favourite.
It felt like the environment.
It was.
Not sure today, maybe the aubergine. And now it wasn't.
That was the Radio 1 capacity, but yeah, today's a very different setting.
The scoop of the year, William's favourite emoji is the aubergine emoji, and we'll leave it to your collective imagination as to how he uses that emoji in his correspondence.
And that was Will's highlight of the entire week.
It's been a slow week.
You need to get out more, Will.
You won't believe what emoji was.
It's been a slow week.
No, Renee.
I'm too old to know what it even means, so I'm just going to move on. So, you may have noticed this week, or you may not, because there wasn't a lot of coverage in the press, that 5 people were sadly stabbed in Holland, the Netherlands, as we now like to call them. And there is a bit of good coming out of that. That in itself wasn't my high five. But what is the British tourist that hunted down the attacker and did a citizen's arrest. Just look at this, guys. Look, whiz, there he is.
This is
superhero.
Yeah, this is unbelievable.
And then he's sitting on him. I don't know why he doesn't raise a fist in the air like, yeah, got him.
Well, we haven't got the full clip. Who knows? He might have celebrated afterwards. So it's unbelievable. So the mayor of Amsterdam has awarded him, I believe, some sort of medal or something.
Yeah.
Bravery medal. Bravery medal. That's right. Yeah. So he's been rewarded for that, as he could be.
So brave. That man had a knife. He'd stabbed 5 people.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Unbelievable. Yeah. My highlight of the week is, as I'm sure everyone will agree, the weather this week is, and it's going to be fantastic. Have you seen the forecast?
That is so British of you.
There was a solar eclipse.
Well, shoot me. Well, there was a solar eclipse.
So hang on, you stuck into me for what I thought was quite a funny little clip, and then you started talking about the weather.
Because the weather. Right. Okay. No. Right. There are multiple parts to this very complex story. One which is not only is it 20 degrees in March, which we should be. I mean, frankly, we should be out on the streets for that, and also the clocks change, which means in the mornings. Don't tell Peter Hitchens because he hates this, but we're about to get a lot more sunshine.
No,
Fantastic.
we get the sunshine in the evenings.
Yeah, because the clocks move forward. Yeah. Did I say in the morning?
Yeah.
Listen, this is the second one of these, right? So, no, but I'm just celebrating the fact that spring has sprung, and as of tomorrow, we're going to get a lot more sunshine in the evenings, as I meant to say before I said the complete opposite. Okay, Luca, what's your highlight?
Yeah, well, we're going to get to enjoy that sunshine in an even more green and even more pleasant land.
Here we go.
This week, it's been announced that the Western Forest, which is in the southwest of England, is going to become a national forest, and South Gloucestershire Council have committed to planting more than 20 million trees by 2050.
Carbon capture.
Carbon capture, but also it's going to be so much prettier. I mean, you look out today, for example, all the trees now, they're all blossoming, all the flowers are out. And I think that's something we can look forward to.
Amazing.
You see?
Absolutely amazing. If Ed Miliband hears about it, obviously he'll have them cut down and put solar panels, but it's amazing.
Well, in the meantime, we can enjoy it. Kai?
Well, you know who would like those trees?
Who?
Some British beavers. It wouldn't be Saturday without us treating ourselves to a little bit of beaver. Now, my high five for today is that a breeding pair of beavers are going to be released into an enclosure on Monday. They're going to settle into a 16-acre enclosure in the headwaters of the River Clean.
I think being released into an enclosure is an oxymoron.
Well, but it's a big enclosure, I guess. But they'll reduce flooding, create wetland habitats, and what's this say? I can't even read my own writing.
Oh boy.
Improve river conditions downstream.
So,
you know, we've been talking about beavers for weeks and weeks. All I have to say is, all hail the mighty beaver and all its transferable skills.
I think you can never get enough of beavers.
I agree.
Just hasn't been my experience, but I'm supportive in principle.
Absolutely. Right, we're going to leave it there for now, but for coming up next on the Saturday 5 Extra.
By the way, not one person ever in my office has ever used the word Latinx.
So can we finally put that to bed?
Yeah,
we agree.
Where did that even
No more Latinx, everybody.
What?
More of the week's triggered tantrums and the result of our poll. Don't go anywhere.
Hooray.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. It generally starts to become drier across the whole of the UK over the next 24 hours as high pressure starts to build in from the Atlantic. Low pressure has been in charge today, particularly across the north and the west with outbreaks of rain and strong winds, but this ridge of high pressure starts to build in. Still going to be pretty windy across the north and the west through Sunday, but it does turn drier. This weather front is weakening though as it pushes southeastward, so thicker cloud and patchy light rain and drizzle across southern counties into the early hours. Generally clear spells elsewhere overnight, but still blustery showers across northern Scotland, and temperatures overall 7 to 9 Celsius, so not a chilly start to Sunday morning. Early rain across the far southeast should start to disappear, but there will be further blustery showers across northern Scotland first thing tomorrow morning. One or two of these on the heavy side at times, but in between some sunny spells. Best of the sunshine across Scotland will be across central and southern parts. Also Northern Ireland, a bright start here, plenty of sunny spells. Similar for northern England as well, though cloud amounts vary. There will be plenty of sunny spells across the rest of England and Wales, and temperatures around 10 or 11 Celsius to start the morning, but still pretty breezy, particularly across northern and eastern parts of England and Scotland. It remains this way through the day, so we could see some large waves down the east coast at times through Sunday afternoon as the winds remain brisk here, but elsewhere plenty of sunshine, winds falling much lighter and feeling fairly pleasant out there. Temperatures reaching around 15 or 16 Celsius, just chilly along some eastern coasts where we've got that breeze continuing. On Monday, a chilly start, patchy frost and some fog in places, and then most places dry and bright, plenty of sunny spells, though weak weather fronts could give some cloud and some patchy light rain across parts of Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland through the day, and winds for all will be light, and high pressure remains in charge through much of next week, keeping it dry and temperatures above average. See you again soon.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, welcome back to the Saturday 5. You've been sending in your thoughts over the past 3 hours. I am taking a look at them as we speak. And Reby says, the US isn't desperate to have deals or relationships with the UK. It's just that we are not a particularly big problem for the US. It has much bigger problems to deal with than the teeny UK. I mean, it does raise a question, doesn't it? This special relationship, does that really exist, or does it just exist in our minds and Trump thinks, OK, guys...
I think it's our minds.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Peter Hitchens, who used to be a correspondent in Washington, said, that when he spoke to people about the special relationships, Americans had no idea what he was talking about.
Yeah.
I think it's our way to feel a bit special and a bit important, but I think we need to grow up and realise that we're not that special.
And also, perhaps we need to be protectionist. Maybe we should take some lessons from Trump, because what he's doing is looking after his own first.
Will, what do you reckon?
I don't think we need to be protectionist, but I think the broader point of looking after our country first is the right point. And I think that's why there is a grudging respect for Donald Trump, even amongst people who go, he may be actually severely damaging the UK, because at least he puts his own country first. And we don't see that in the United Kingdom.
No.
Yeah. Absolutely. Right, OK, let's move on, because the results are in. I'm ready. Here we go. All right, well, I'm not wearing my glasses, so I can't read. It looks to me like...
Oh, dear.
I'm on 9%, says Maria in my ear, which is terrible. Right, so I've come second last. OK, so I'm on 9.
Who's last?
Will's on 15. Renee is on 43.
I think that's my highest score ever.
Kai's on 3. Oh. Luke is on 30.
I peaked too early, I think.
Can I suggest that switch from Renee being around 33% and Luca around 37 to Luca being 30, Renee being 45 in the space of about half an hour?
Well, I've had my friend who's a top quant in the city, and he's looked at the data and he says it doesn't add up. Something dodgy has been happening.
Was that your friend who you told us was voting from various VPNs to get...
I could not comment on that one, but...
This is all ongoing throughout the last 2 hours or so. We've tried to keep it little bit, but now it's all come out. The grisly truth. It didn't even work, by the way, Luca.
No, I know. It was all for nothing.
I think it didn't work when he insulted the electorate.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes people just can't handle the truth, and I'm willing to sacrifice myself for that one.
Righto, Jack Nicholson.
Scoop, Lucas says you can't handle the truth after coming second in a poll and being upset about it.
I don't know how you do it, yeah.
You got 3%, Kai, happy with that?
No, not really. It's not my worst performance. It's not my best performance.
What's your worst performance then?
One.
No, I think 2.
When Kai got 6% the other week, he celebrated with a 3-day bender. So,
you didn't answer his phone for 7 days.
I didn't realise you had a tagging chip on.
It was England 1966 World Cup, except probably times 10.
Look, you got 3%, which is great. I mean, I got 9, so I can't really talk.
And it was a good weekend.
So we were both in single digits. Anyway, right, we're going to move on because I think we're going to do some tantrums now. Luca, your tantrum?
He's just had one.
He's just had it.
Oh, yeah. You just had one. You get another one now.
Second tantrum of the night for me then. Well, we're hopping over back to the US, and as Trump administration kicks in with its deportation program, some Democrats haven't been taking it too well and are getting pretty personal about it. Watch this.
He wants to start looking so closely to find those who were born here and their parents were undocumented. Maybe ought to first look at Melania. We don't know whether or not her parents were documented. And maybe we'd better just take a look.
Love it.
Right, well, I mean, I agree with all of that, really. I think that's perfectly sound logic.
Deport Melania.
No, of course, that's crazy.
It is funny how racist the left gets when it suits them, isn't it?
Well, I mean, what do you reckon, Luca?
Well, yeah, I mean, it shows that people don't really understand the difference between legal and illegal migration. I mean, they seem to assume that every immigrant is illegal, and that's why they look at someone like Melania, who obviously isn't and is a US citizen. So,
and he's married to the president.
And also is married to the president, of course. So it seems pretty petty and vindictive, that one.
Kai, right, you've got a tantrum.
It's not a winning argument, is it? From the left, not from you. No, my tantrum is this, and actually, for once, I'm doing some left-on-left action here.
Oh.
Because
Well.
Gavin...
Exciting.
Gavin don't threaten me at a good time. Gavin Newsom, who is the governor of California, recently did a podcast interview where he claimed that neither he nor any of his staff ever used the Latinx term, which is a term to describe Hispanic people of Hispanic heritage in the United States, Latinx, but it also is sort of a gender-neutral term.
Oh, my God.
He was shown up pretty quickly, and I think we've got the clip right here.
By the way, not one person ever in my office has ever used the word Latinx.
So can we finally put that to bed?
Yeah,
we agree?
where did that even
No
come?
more
I'm
Latinx, everybody.
Well, I just didn't even know where it came from. I'm like, what are people talking about?
But there was a person who used Latinx. It was actually a really important person. It was him.
I hope we can really paint a picture in terms of our consciousness of how impactful this has been on the Latinx community. The Latinx and Black.
So good.
Isn't it? I mean, I'm very happy to call out the hypocrisy of the left. I mean, this sort of going whichever way the wind blows kind of attitude that Gavin Newsom has as he obviously tries to pave his way to the next Democratic nomination. It's tragic to watch.
The funny thing about the Latinx thing is it's been created by liberal elites in universities, white liberal elites in universities. They did a study on this not so long ago, and they found that in the Latino community in America, I think about 4% of them had heard the term Latinx, and the ones that had heard it overwhelmingly disliked it. And so all these kind of white lefty liberals at Columbia or Harvard go, ooh, maybe just go back to Hispanic.
You're totally right.
But also it does show, I mean, that whole movement, that sort of woke, if you will, is on the retreat when even the people who just 2 years ago were now completely even denying their involvement.
That's absolutely right, Luke. Yeah, so Gavin Newsom was clearly the torchbearer of that stuff, and now realising that if he wants to be within a cat's chance in hell of having the presidential nomination, the Democratic nomination in 2028, it's 28, isn't it? Yeah, of course it is, he needs to pivot on this stuff. I think it's really interesting. The whole point of this podcast is clearly laying the groundwork for that, because the invisible primary begins in about a year, doesn't it? So it's really telling. Keep an eye on him.
He's also had
time.
Yeah, he's also had Steve Bannon. He's had a few other kind of right-wing people on the podcast.
Bannon was the first one.
It's a fascinating electoral strategy. It'll be interesting to see. We'll see what happens.
Especially for a Californian national politician.
I mean,
That's
what
incredible.
I thought was interesting we saw this week in the White House, I don't know if you saw Trump giving his speech about International Women's Month, where he called out every single woman in his offices. Then he actually said about how much he loved women in charge. It was absolutely amazing. When you compare it to last year with Biden, where he had two blokes in a dress who were heading up the Navy and something else, celebrating them as women. The complete change from that to this for women is a breath of fresh air. But it must be showing the Democrats, look, we're doing it properly.
You heard it here first. Donald Trump, big fan of women. We knew that already, Renee. Interesting, just not in the way that you're claiming.
He didn't have a bloke in a dress and celebrate her as a woman. That's what he didn't do.
It's an interesting point I was going to say, which is that, we're talking about Gavin Newsom and the Democratic nomination. Where do they... I know we've only just had an election, but it's the nature of American politics that we immediately start talking about the next one. So Gavin Newsom obviously pitching himself for the Democratic nomination.
They've got fundraise now, haven't they?
Yeah, of course. You need to assemble your war chest basically before the last election as even. So it's interesting who else is on the Democratic side, and then who's on the Republican side, because it needs to be a new candidate on that side as well.
Yeah, the other people who run manoeuvres on the Democratic side are AOC and Bernie Sanders. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is the New York Congresswoman. They have been jointly launching a tour, an anti-oligarchy tour around the US in the last few weeks.
So
it's been very well attended.
What's Bernie's role in that? Because how old is he?
Well, this is the thing. He's making AOC.
He's the torchbearer for the left.
And together, their combined celebrity is quite significant.
But here's the thing. They're both loonies. We all know that. But if the tariffs take hold, if the economy tanks in the next few years, there will be a lot of people who won't just hate Trump, they'll be resenting the capitalist system more generally in America. And you could have a 2016 moment, but on the left.
And you
don't discount the AOC thing if this goes sour in America.
Interesting you say that, particularly because if on the Republican side you end up with a J.D. Vance ticket, right? Because he's
he's really associated with that whole oligarchs, with Musk and all those lot. And if it happens, as you say, that America ends up with some sort of economic crash, but those billionaires do well out of it, then it's a really easy narrative for someone like AOC to come up with in 2028.
Which is why these tariffs are really problematic for Trump. Really problematic.
Yeah.
But he has to do them because he said he would do them.
Well, that's it. Right, OK, let's move on because it is the end of the show, I'm afraid. Thanks to our guests and you, our lovely audience, for joining in the fun tonight. Next up, it is the brilliant Ben Leo Tonight with Alex Armstrong, who's normally in this chair, but now he's over there. What have you got coming up, Alex?
Oh, it's going to be a banging show tonight, guys. It's so weird. I did tell you this one day would become the Saturday one, and here it is, but it's in the form of the Ben Leo Show. But I can't wait to tell you what this is, this big bunch of paper here. We're talking about two-tier justice. Yes, 51 hours to go until Britain possibly becomes a two-tier justice state. And of course, we're not going to miss out on that Prince Harry breaking news. Also, we're going to talk about J.D. Vance's leaked comments saying that Europe is freeloading. I don't know what you guys think about that, but we're going to dive into that one. Of course, we've got the WhatsApp group arrest, the two parents arrested for criticising a school, and all of tomorrow's front pages where the news is going to be really, really hot. I can't wait to share more of it with you in a few moments' time. But first up, it's your weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. It generally starts to become drier across the whole of the UK over the next 24 hours as high pressure starts to build in from the Atlantic. Low pressure has been in charge today, particularly across the north and the west with outbreaks of rain and strong winds. But this ridge of high pressure starts to build in. Still going to be pretty windy across the north and the west through Sunday, but it does turn drier. This weather front is weakening though as it pushes southeastward, so thicker cloud and patchy light rain and drizzle across southern counties into the early hours. Generally clear spells elsewhere overnight, but still blustery showers across northern Scotland, and temperatures overall 7 to 9 Celsius, so not a chilly start to Sunday morning. Early rain across the far southeast should start to disappear, but there will be further blustery showers across northern Scotland first thing tomorrow morning. One or two of these on the heavy side at times, but in between some sunny spells. Best of the sunshine across Scotland will be across central and southern parts. Also Northern Ireland, a bright start here, plenty of sunny spells. Similar for northern England as well, though cloud amounts vary. There will be plenty of sunny spells across the rest of England and Wales, and temperatures around 10 or 11 Celsius to start the morning, but still pretty breezy, particularly across northern and eastern parts of England and Scotland. It remains this way through the day, so we could see some large waves down the east coast at times through Sunday afternoon as the winds remain brisk here, but elsewhere plenty of sunshine, winds falling much lighter and feeling fairly pleasant out there. Temperatures reaching around 15 or 16 Celsius, just chilly along some eastern coasts where we've got that breeze continuing. On Monday, a chilly start, patchy frost and some fog in places, and then most places dry and bright, plenty of sunny spells, though weak weather fronts could give some cloud and some patchy light rain across parts of Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland through the day, and winds for all will be light, and high pressure remains in charge through much of next week, keeping it dry and temperatures above average. See you again soon.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Jubes, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there are absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's the final week to see how you could spruce up your spring, as we have an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash to be won. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you the latest Mulberry handbag, and not one, but two sought-after designer watches. Make sure you don't miss out, as lines close on the 4th of April. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays, I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Alex Armstrong, standing in for Ben Leo while he's in Japan. Tonight on the show.
Will never be a two-tier sentencing approach under my watch or under this Labour government.
Interesting. Well, in just 51 hours' time.